Alright everybody, fired things up here. As usual, gonna let people trickle in for just a minute before we get too deep into things. I'm gonna try to win a few more matches than we did this morning because we did a lot of losing and a lot of that was to my very, very sloppy play today. So we're gonna try to clean that up as I accidentally failed to move cards again. Alright, fair enough. Rough beats, rough beats. Cryptic back in here. Get our call guns command back in here. Basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to switch out this Bloodstained Mire for a Flooded Strand or a Misty Rainforest. We suggested it to some people in chat who are missing their copies of Scalding Tarn in real life, and they were looking for budget options that, hey, maybe you should try out other blue fetch land, because pretty frequently in this build, if you're playing the Cryptic Command version of the deck, you need to fetch untapped islands at a pretty regular clip. Especially on turn 4, you're more than likely on that turn to get a basic, because you usually have a blue-black land, a blue-red land. You might have a mountain or a swamp, but then you want to get a basic island at that point. So I think what we're going to try to do is Bloodstained Mire, who's just been utter garbage. We'll try that as a Flooded Strand. There's also a pretty high frequency of games where you want to fetch island on turn 1 for Ancestral Visions. Those are usually the games where you're not looking to terminate on 2. So I'll give a Flooded Strand a try. If this fails, I think my instinct is to go back to Sulphur Falls. But Adam, I have not yet seen the version that took down the PTQ. I know it was Stephen Mann, who goes by Random Driller on MTGO, but let's pull up dailymtg.com. We'll go to their deck list section. We'll see if S-Man's doing anything a little crazy. I know Ants also was in our channel earlier hanging out, and they managed to put up another top 4 on Moto PTQs, so I mean, those two players are just killing it right now. And it's kind of sweet that they're both doing it with Grixis. Makes me pretty stoked that, you know, maybe we're not just onto a good metagame call deck, but maybe we're onto a great metagame call deck. I'm sorry, Ants picked up a top 8 finish, it looks like. Alright, so he had Mana Leaks instead of Counter Squalls. That's reasonable. 2 Collective Brutality, 2 Dispel, 1 Static Caster, 2 Anger, 1 Damnation, 3 Fulminator, 3 Surgical. So they had 2 Brutality, so they don't have the extra copy of Negate. We could get this exact list to try if we wanted to. I'm not opposed to that at all. Mana Leak's a card I'm not super stoked with, as it turns off pretty early on, and I like the hard counter. But if you're expecting a more creature-heavy metagame, it's perfectly reasonable. It is also nice that it's easier to cast. Played against the Bantal Eldrazi, it's obviously great there. Let's see the list that Ants was playing. Ants was playing our exact 75 with Sun Droplets. Man, I hope one of these players is able to get that burn matchup in that top 8. The top 8, for those who haven't seen, were 2 Grixis, 2 Bantal Eldrazi, 1 Dredge, 1 Titan Shift. So Titan Shift, I need to figure out if they have Escape Shift. Oh no, this is no Titans. This is actually Bring to Shift. Bring to Shift, their Bantal Eldrazi, Affinity, and Burn. Okay. Reasonable little package there. Added Spire Bluffs and Brutality. Oh, I didn't actually check out the mana base well enough. Good call, Adam. What's up, Timmy? Welcome back. I guess it would help if I didn't have my stream paused so I could actually see what everyone is seeing. New technology there. Turn on the stream so you can see what's going down. Wow, 3 canals. That's a lot of canalage. Went as far as cutting the Sulphur Falls and shaving an island. Wow. Okay. Down to try that at some point, too. I don't think we're going to make drastic changes just yet, but I'm down for tomorrow's stream. We'll probably give that a whirl. See if S-Man's just grinded out enough games in the current meta game that that's where you want to be. Alright, we got some people trickling in. We're going to fire it up, catch people up as we see fit, but the stream must go on, as they say. Don't have 120 play points? Whatever. Time to incinerate tickets. Why no disruption? Morology, I think hand disruption right now is in a pretty weak spot where there's a lot of very fast combo decks. And I think they turn off fairly early on in the game. Plus, your mana base is much better set up to cast blue spells early as opposed to black spells early. We could shift the mana base, obviously, very easily to change that, but you're set up in a way to play blue spells early rather than black spells, in a sense that you just want to trade mana for mana, card for card. It's a similar reason why I don't like Remand, because I'm trading 2 mana for however much mana their spell is, but we don't give her any many cards on either side. Whereas in this deck, while we would be trading card for card there, unlike Remand, we're going to be trading down mana, which means we need to backpedal even further and catch up more. So I usually like discard in decks where we're going to be playing some sort of Wrath effects, we're going to be playing big creatures that we can tactically take all the cards that we need to protect our large threat and get those out of the way. Squirrel Loop, poor dude. But I guess in short, that would be the answer in Morology. I think that discard builds are perfectly fine. I just think that if you're going down the route that I want to be playing 6 hard counters in my main deck, I don't think discard is the place to be. And at that point, I would rather be pairing with some other various threat. Kalitas, Pian Kieran, Glenelyn, Archmage, Jacerin's Prodigy. Yeah, Dokumoy, it was pretty nice. We won't ruin Squirrel Loot tonight too much. Oh yeah, they are. Both teams locked the playoffs, thankfully, because the Giants were able to take down the Redskins this morning. So the real sad folks here are the Redskins. I mean, at the end of the day, like, one of us was hosting the Giants and one of us was going into Seattle. So I mean, I don't think either team's like exceptionally stoked. Like, you'd obviously want the home game, but I mean, at the end of the day, like, both teams that you'd be fighting are pretty solid, and I don't know that you're going to be favored against either one. Packers are obviously on the uptick, and the Lions are in the downtick right now. They've lost 3 in a row. I think Packers have won 6 in a row now. So, I mean, Packers have some fire under them. They got the momentum going, but it's still going to be tough either way. All right, we got a match here. Let's do some battling. Got a Cryptic 5 Lander and a Spell Snare. On the draw, I'm going to end up keeping this hand. It's a fairly weak hand. Both our opponent on a mulligan. This hand has 2 like very solid answers. It develops our mana pretty effectively and allows us to draw most of our spells to be online. Oh, it looks like we're playing the Mirror. Alright, hopefully we've improved in this match with a fair amount. There are only 2 mana spells. We're really terrified of them resolving. Negative. Lightning Bolt's not actually terrible because they did draw Tar Pit. Her hand's not great for the Mirror, but it's not the worst either. Note our opponent did also bottom their card. Alright, well, 2 bolts is, I guess, technically more than 1. I don't know if it's better than 1, but we have 2 bolts now. Opponent fetching our end step. Hard to get too much information out of that unless they, like, double Thought Scour themselves. This signifies to me they likely have a Sulphur Falls in their hand. Given that we're on 5 lands, we will be fetching here aggressively to try to thin out our library a little bit. It's pretty easy here to get perfect colors in this matchup because we're not going to mess with each other's mana bases. Alright, we have 2 Spell Snares now. We don't have any way to actually like get pressure going, but once we get to those Wars Over Snapcaster Mages, we have enough lands that it's going to be difficult for our opponent to really try to grind us out. I mean, we have cards we're willing to discard to oncoming threats. Kolagon's command. We have a Cryptic of our own. Not too rough of a spot. I think I'll just go under Steam Vents here. Yeah. Alright, K command's nice. Unfortunately, a turn late to get underneath Cryptic command. But if our opponent taps any mana, we now have the ability to start K commanding some stuff. Scroll, we actually didn't play any board games. We just brought out a cube, because we started so late, everyone started showing up around 3:30 instead of 3 realistically. We ended up just battling Frank Fields' sort of like modern-esque cube, where it felt like it was closer to Theros Standard almost. It was fun, but wasn't board games, but not gonna complain. Alright, well, our opponents are now trying to like Serum Visions like crazy. I'm just gonna go ahead and counter this nonsense. They're likely just trying to set up a K command spot, and that's fine. Okay, so our opponent doesn't have any lands, so they're all spells. Unfortunately, we don't have a good second mode to do with this K command, so I'm just not going to fire it off for no additional value. So we're not going to get too far ahead on this exchange, but that's okay. Alright, Scalding Tarn. That's going to help us hold up Cryptic and Spell Snare here, which is nice. I think the running out Snapcaster on Serum Visions is a really good line from the opponent. Alright, they unfortunately top decked after bottoming an Ancestral, so we're sort of on the clock here now. We need to find the first thread to make the game start occurring. Tassiger would be great. Snapcaster of our own wouldn't be terrible. We'd have to just start firing off some spells. Got a Watergrave here. Alright, Serum Visions is nice. We'll go ahead and use that. I'm not playing my island first because we don't know whether or not we're going to draw their Tar Pit. We would like to play that. Tassiger's pretty nice here. We'll go ahead and put that on top. Player Island. Let's pull these out so we can see what's going down. Alright, Bloodstained Mire from the opponent. We have 5 cards in the graveyard. So we're able to hold up Cryptic and actually have a war if we want to. I moreover really just want to get this Tasker into play and to die, so I'm willing to just trade it for a card. So I'm not going to fire off a K command and end step again, as it's difficult for this thing to get exiled. I don't think we need any of our graveyard, so we're just going to kill it all. Get the Tastic Life out there, expect it to die. Opponent's just going to fire off a Cryptic. I'm pretty fine with that. Trying to think if we see a need to Cryptic back here. We don't have to get to leave up a Spell Snare and a Lightning Bolt. Currently I want to Cryptic this Ancestral, but I think it's actually fine to counter back on this. I just kind of want to make my opponent start spending mana on their turn so I can start taxing their resources. I'm currently ahead on mana, so I'm currently the one that gets to drive the tempo of the game. As soon as Bloodstained Mire is going to go to another Steam Vents, opponent's going to untap, probably terminate the Tassiger. We'll let that resolve. One of Thought Scouring on unstep, K command. Make them discard, buy back our Tassiger, recast the Tassiger. Looks like terminate right on the spot here. Later, dude. Yeah, Cards Against Humanity I find like fun the first couple times, but not a long-term game that I really want to play. I've played tons of different variations of it at this point. Alright, opponent is making us discard and buying back their Snapcaster. I'm gonna go ahead and Thought Scour myself in response here. Find an Explosives. Well, that card's just truly heinous, so we'll go ahead and discard that. So they're on 4 cards now, that Ancestral on 2. We didn't mill anything over of relevance. We'll use the Serum Vision, see if we can find any action. Found a Snapcaster. Second Tasker. We don't need a second Tasker here because we have enough K commands to buy back the first one. The Thought Scour is actually, I think, fairly useful here to find us more action for our Snapcaster Mage. I'm going to leave that Cryptic in there for sure this time around, but I also want to try to find a Counter Skull, so I'm going to top this Thought Scour. Let's go ahead and return our Tassiger and make our opponent discard. Need to make sure we leave open one of our steam vents says Creeping Tar Pit. We're going to end up removing 5 cards, leaving out Bolt Slash Snare. I would expect my opponent to discard, ooh, a Tasker of their own. Interesting. Alright, so Serum, Engineer, Thought Scour, Land. Those can all go. Tasker's back for the battles. Alright, one more turn for that Ancestral, unfortunately. Yeah, to me, I want to save the snares for the Snapcasters in this matchup. I think that's really the fights that are coming up here. So my opponent has a counter squall here. They actually had to also have an untapped land, and it's very difficult for them to untap land based on how the game's played out. This looks like a Tasker of their own based on how tapping mana is going. Okay, it is. So we know their hand has 2 spells. They're going to draw up to 6 if we aren't able to Snapcast or Cryptic this Ancestral. So it's kind of dicey. What we could try to do is attack with our Tassiger. I think that's an auto play almost. If they block, we get to Kolaghan's Command, Shock, Discard, and we're basically fighting their 4 random cards and their 1 spell in their hand. I guess it's probably more correct actually to fire off a Lightning Bolt if we do that. The other line of play is to just Snapcast or Cryptic. Awesome, Dokomoi. That's sweet. I love hearing that. So I think it's a free attack here. I'm going to attack. My life total is lower than my opponent's, but I have burn in my hand, and we're not guaranteed to know that they have burn in their hand. And they don't know that I don't want to fire off a Lightning Bolt on their Tassiger. So I think we're just likely to sneak 4 damage here. I am going to go for the Snapcaster in the line. If it ends up getting interrupted via Cryptic Command or Counter Squall or something of that nature, sure, it's not a fantastic spot, but I think we're still able to grind with them as they're going to have mana tapped now on their Ancestral turn. And I think it's going to be pretty difficult for them to stop our Tasker getting through. So we're going to pass back here. We're going to go for the Snapcaster Cryptic on this Ancestral. This could be wrong. I'm not completely certain. Like I said, this is actually only my 2nd time now playing this mirror. It seems like to me that this is one of the important cards in the matchup where you just get a ton of card advantage. But hey, I could be wrong. It's possible our opponent will snare back here, and if they snare back, such is life. Alright, so they're going to wait for our Cryptic. If they do have a counter, unless it's Counter Squall, which is basically a negate variant, so I'm trying to think if there's any reason to counter bounce. Not really, because they can just recast it, so we'll go ahead and counter draw. This unfortunately taps us all the way out. But we still have Thought Scour to start milling over extra pieces. Alright, we did win the fight over that, and we found our own Ancestral, so that's a really good spot. So they're going to Snapcaster, I assume Terminating, to kill our Tassiger. That's what's happening. They're going to bash us back down to 13. What's up, Endwalker? What are you confused about him, MSCA Cox? Feel free to ask any questions you got. I'm ready to answer. Alright, here, I think it's pretty likely that we want to Thought Scour ourselves, Kolaghan's Command back our Tassiger, re-get our Tassiger out there again. So let's start by swinging the Snapcaster Mage. Oops, there we go. Get in there, little guy. My Outlook settings are out of date. That's cool. That's perfectly fine. I don't exactly know what that means, but those can be out of date if they want to be out of date. Alright, found more Thought Scour action. Let's go ahead and return target creature. We'll get the Tassiger. We'll make them discard. Again, we're making them discard rather than saying, like, kill their Snapcaster Mage because we know they have 2 spells in their hand. You frequently just want to make tons and tons of land drops in this matchup. I guess we can play this island, actually, so let's do that. Return Tassiger, make you discard. Mute the mic 1 second, guys. My bad. I had hit the unmute button, but apparently it didn't work. I'm really sorry, guys. The story I was trying to tell you was my sister apparently lost her cat. I don't really understand how you do that, but she managed to do it. Thank you. I'm sorry. Yeah, my mic was in fact muted. MS, I gave a long explanation to your question, but here, I'll give it again. Sorry about that. Basically, my opponent doesn't know the 4 cards that are in my hand, so it is difficult for them to end up trying to figure out how to block there. And by attacking my 4/5 into their 4/5, what they can likely deduce is, okay, my opponent has a burn spell. And it makes them difficult to block because they're just representing a blue-black land. They don't have a burn spell back. So it's not like if they block and then I go for a burn spell, they can't just burn spell it back and we both lose our Tassigurs. So I know from my side of the board that my Tassigur is living through the turn, but their Tassigur is likely to die if they block. But they didn't know that I'm attacking with the Tassigur with the intention of trying to get 4 damage through secretly. Like, what I really wanted to do was hold up for that Snapcaster Mage and use all 6 of my mana to counter their draw 3 that was going on the stack in their upkeep. If they had seen my hand at some point in the game, yeah, they would have been likely to do, okay, I need this draw 3 to go off. My hand's a little bit slower than my opponent's. I need new cards, so I'm willing to throw away my Tassigur because I think I can just go get another big threat or answer their Tassigur at another point in the game. That was basically what my logic was. Therefore, it is difficult for my opponent to block, but it is also just sort of a quote-unquote free attack for me, as I'm able to represent the entire suite of cards. Of note, I'm able to represent all of the lightning bolts of the matchup, which are bad cards, and my opponent really is not. Alright, so we want Dispels, Fulminator, Mages here. I think we want the Negate. From playing this yesterday, I think we just want to shave Terminates, not cut them all. Want to shave Lightning Bolts. And I think we actually might want to shave Cryptics as they're fairly slow, and it looked like this starts out as like a Delver matchup the first few turns of the game, but then turns into a true control mirror the later the game goes. The Collective Brutality might be okay, but I think it's just super weak, as it's usually just going to be 2 mana trying to get them to discard a card. And I think it's probably a better card on the play than it is on the draw. So I think my line here is going to be shave 2 Cryptics. Again, I'm still learning things here. I don't know if this is correct. I think you want some number of Terminates to cleanly answer the Tassigurs, and those are going to be recursively coming back. So it's much more likely we say need 1 or 2 of those. We had the Surgicals yesterday, and they actually looked pretty horrendous, where our opponent just beat the crap out of us. Yeah, I'm not too concerned. It's an indoor cat, so Max is probably running around the house somewhere. My sister's a little sad she hasn't seen him in probably 10-ish hours since she and her boyfriend left to go work out and go on their multi-majillion mile runs. But I'm sure little fella's around here somewhere. Alright, this hand's a pretty clear keep. We have a Dispel. We've got what is likely a turn 3 Tassigur. We have a Terminate, but we can't cast yet, but that's fine. Obviously, I'd prefer to have an Ancestral Visions, but not the end of the world. Looks like our opponent does have an Ancestral Visions. That's the end of the world. Let's see. So Carriot. What are my thoughts of Kalitas? I like Kalitas. I don't like it in this version, as I'm not really into... I have a lot of Thought Scours now. I'm not really into giant creatures in the list trying to hold up counterspells. That being said, if you're looking to play a more discard-focused list, I think Kalitas is probably a pretty reasonable card. I don't think that you very often need Kalitas in the current metagame. If my opponent wants to counterspell my Thought Scour, it's perfectly fine by me. Just because I feel like most of the time you end up casting it, you've already locked up the game, as you need to be answering all the difficult threats that come up turn by turn. And they're Thought Scouring themselves of also their own and stuff. Weird. Okay. Hopefully I don't untap Blue Source. I did not. Freaking crap. Okay. Could have Thought Scoured myself there, but I'd rather leave up Dispel just in case my opponent just goes, alright, I'm just going to immediately call Gon's command back the Snapcaster. I don't want that happening. Thought Scouring themselves again, so they also have a turn 2 or turn 3 Tassigur. Want to find a red source here so we can murder theirs with Terminate. Hopefully find an untapped land also so we can hold up Dispel. Ooh, looks like they're also on a 2-lander here. Alright, so we're going to have a bit of a Petal Fest. These are really fun games where each player is sort of light on lands. Alright, we found a Fulminator Mage, which is going to be really good if we can peel a land here. Couldn't peel a land off the top. Now we have to make the decision of do we want to just run out our task like we're holding up Dispel and Thought Scour, or do we want to try to Serum for a land immediately? And I think I'd rather just hold up Dispel, as I don't think our opponent can really make any moves without getting our Tassiger out of the way. Let's see, we don't have any Snapcasters, we don't have any Kolaghan's commands right now. There's one Kolaghan's command in our exile pile. We've got one creature we want to get back. We've got another Thought Scour to fill up the graveyard. I'm going to go ahead and leave. I'm going to go ahead and leave our Snapcaster Mage. I think by the time that we end up getting enough lands that we could even Snapcast or anything back, we'll find a Kolaghan's command likely first for that Snapcaster. Hopefully I'd answer your question well enough, Zach. Hey Nate, how goes, man? Good having you back. Uh-oh, they found a third land. Ruh-roh. Alright, we're certainly blocking here. Again, this is sort of a very similar spot from the last game, where our opponent's representing a burn spell, and the burn spells are pretty poor cards in the matchup, generally speaking. But if I were my opponent, I would make this attack almost 100% of the time. And, well, I'm unfortunately going to have to dispel a Lightning Bolt. I was hoping to get to dispel a copy of Kolaghan's command. I'd rather get them to bite on casting the spell on their turn, so that we can just resolve the spells on our turn also. So, kind of in an unfortunate spot, 'cause it looks like we're going to end up getting a spell back or counter squalled, but them's the beats. That's unfortunate. Alright, so now we really need to Serum Visions into a red source. There's finally the mountain. So what we could do is end up milling them for some more cards to get the mountain immediately to make a land drop this turn. Which is, I think, what we're going to end up having to do, because I think we need to find another land also. So I'm going to go ahead and put the Serum Visions on the bottom, I believe, and just immediately Thought Scour them. So our opponent's going to drop to 7 cards this turn, which is unfortunate because we would like to have disrupted their mana base here. I'm not a big fan of having to mill over my opponent when they haven't scryed to the top, but I think we just really need to make land drops here. Alright, we ended up milling probably 2 of the best spells in their deck, so I'll definitely take that mill. Blind and Lucky. Just the way I like it. Ended up milling over a K command and a Snapcaster Mage. Deuce, I think you can replace it with Molten Rain. I think it's slightly worse, but not, like, truly horrendous by any stretch of the imagination. Like, I've played Molten Rain in the past. I determined Fulminator Mage is better in this version because there's a lot of times you just put it into play and you need the 2/2 beatdowns. This is just getting worse and worse for us. Just getting worse and worse. So our opponent is representing Snapcaster plus Dispel. I think our best bet here is to just probably pass and try to terminate it. The other line of play here is to play the Fulminator Mage, just pass, and then look to block, sack, kill Tar Pit. That might actually just be better. Yeah, we'll do that. Fair enough, fair enough, fair enough. Yeah, falling behind on land drops and control mirrors is not exactly where you want to be. Yeah, it's possible killing them off of red is going to end up being better. Just so you're still wanting to kill the man land, because the game's going to go like 40 bajillion more turns. Alright, well now we're certainly going to kill them off the man land. Alright, get out of here, Tar Pit. Alright, well I guess we could technically run back the previous turn, which doesn't actually look too bad. Fortunately not killing a Tar Pit this turn, but that's okay. Opponent still can't Cryptic here. Guess I shouldn't actually F6, that'd be pretty bad if my opponent decided to like Kolaghan's command to try to push damage by killing the Fulminator Mage. So we know our opponent doesn't have a K command, because they would have fired off a K command a while ago to get back their Snapcaster. Like a 5th land untap means they certainly do have a Cryptic Command, however. So we'll line up a block here. We'll blow up one of their copies of Steam Vents, because we can't blow up the basic Swamp, unfortunately. What's up, Gallerman? How you guys, dude? I have not thought about it much, Nate, to be completely honest. I think this is probably only my second time playing it, and both times I've played it on stream. And both times it's played out, the pre-board games just kind of comes down to whoever has card advantage ends up winning, and the post-board games would come down to the game similarly playing out to like a Delver matchup. My opponent here is just playing really well by just not using their silly Tassiger. Alright, multiple Spirebluff Canals. I'm going to go ahead and terminate this right now. I expect my opponent to counter, and then on my turn, we're going to go ahead and terminate it back. Fortunately, it's getting spell snared. That's a little bit brutal. Yeah, I'm not great at hitting these land drops. These land drop things are difficult. Likely just try to terminate this here again. And then after that gets countered, just run out of Tassiger. The reason why I do this now is it's very clear to me my opponent has a Cryptic Command in their hand. So I'd rather make them have a second copy of Spell Snare or a Counter Squall or what have you. Unfortunate they did end up having it. Okay, so we don't need this other copy of Tassiger. We don't need the Serum, the Thought Scour. We don't need the second copy of Fulminator Mage. And we don't need... I don't believe we need the Snapcaster Mage because we have Snapcaster in our hand and a Cake Command and we're land light. We'd more likely want the Tassiger, so we'll hold it for that. I know, cool, some ultimatums. What the heck's going on? Man, and they terminate. This is getting brutal. Brutal. Alright, well at least I don't have a Cake Command or a Snapcaster Mage yet, so we're not in the worst of positions, but, I mean, we're at 6 life, so we can't say we're in a good position. Did draw land, so I think we're going to fetch a basic island, look to Snapcaster plus Terminate. I don't expect it to resolve, obviously. But I'm going to end up doing it on my opponent's turn. Just to try to play around Cryptic just a little bit here. Alright, so let's do it in their upkeep. So the fewest number of opportunities, draw a Snapcaster of their own. Need to get a basic here to prevent the amount of life I'm actually going to lose. Note, if they go to try to counter the Snapcaster Mage with their Cryptic, we're going to have to negate it. So we need to leave up the red for Terminate. So here comes the expected Cryptic. We'll negate it. We're going to have needing to chump block here with Snappy. But I mean, that's fine. We're at 5. We're pretty much expecting a chump block anyways. Yeah, we'll target the Terminate anyways. Gonna need some good draws here. Polluted Delta is not a horrible draw, but not a great one either. I mean, like, we can bounce this silly thing right now. Does that do us that much? Obviously, it prevents us from taking one more hit, but... yeah, I guess we'll do it right now. Let's go ahead and bounce this goofball. Draw a card. It could just Cake Command there instead of 2. Tassiger, but I guess we're going to get dispelled anyways. So now our fetch land's even turned off. Therefore, since our fetch land's going to be turned off, I'm just going to hold it in my hand. Kid JR Tom, I honestly would not recommend this to anybody if you're just getting into Modern. It's a really tough deck to play, and you're going to really need to know all of the different decks and all the different strategies in Modern. Like, you need to know your opponent's deck basically as well as you know your deck. So if you're just getting into the format, your win rate's going to be pretty low with this deck because the deck's really tough to play. But if if what you want to do is play a control deck, I mean, it is a great control deck. It doesn't look like a normal control deck, I mean, because we're playing what usually ends up being a 1-mana 4/5. But at the end of the day, I mean, this is what you call a control deck in Modern these days. You don't usually get away with just putting like 10 counter spells and a bunch of Sphinx's Revelations in your deck, because it's just way harder to win games against decks. To be completely honest, if you wanted a deck that I think is probably on the lesser expensive side, is really powerful, but allows you to play a bunch more interactive games, to just sort of get a feel for the format, I think Bound Eldrazi is a really good choice. I know some of my teammates will disagree with that. I think Bound Eldrazi is a really good choice. It's more of a creature mid-range deck. You're just kind of playing giant fatties with a lot of very powerful abilities, and you're sort of tactically trying to tax your opponent's resources while killing them. The way you board in this matchup is -4 bolts, plus an negate, +2 dispel, +1 fulminator. You've toyed with bringing in is a static caster. Interesting. So I haven't had the die to Snapcaster beats come up too much, Waffles. Oh, you have a click in the main. Yeah, Ben White's is somebody I highly recommend to listening to deck choice, and Bant Eldrazi's like one of the decks that he and his team basically founded for that Pro Tour. Harrison, I mean, Infect's probably the best deck, but I believe that Infect's another very hard deck to play. Trying to figure out exactly what you're playing around at all times is much harder than just play your biggest and most badass spell. Oops, did not mean to bring in these cards. I think these Fulminator Mages are just going to be even more absurd on the play, so I think I'm just going to leave all of them in. I think I like 2 Terminates based on the way I'm seeing these games play out, as it seems to come down to who's got the most biggest badass Tassiger. I like the negate over the Cryptic. I'm trying to figure out if I want to go back up to a 3rd Cryptic on the play. It seems just really hard to cast, especially if my opponent goes on the Fulminator Mage line that I went on, where we're both just trying to like mana screw each other off their weird lands and just play like a very bizarre game. My opponent had 2 basics there. Maybe that's pretty important to just fetch a basic swamp in the matchup. So we might give that a go if we get a whirl on that. I'm just going to hope that we end up with a turn 1 Ancestral, because it dumpster fired us that game. Who is it that's that question? Kid Junior Tom. If you want to ask Ben White's for deck choice, Ben is probably among the top 5 players in the world right now, I would say, at deck choice. This is actually something we're discussing on New Year's Eve, who is somebody that I think is like really underrated. And I think Ben is one of those players that if you see him consistently keep putting in the time for the next couple years and cleaning up his technical play, like, he's got his head screwed on really well for the theory of the game, always is choosing great decks, is always innovating. Like, he's one of the guys that, if sort of an under the radar name is going to top 8 a Pro Tour, win a Grand Prix in the next few months, Ben's high on my list of those people. Alright, here this hand's just not even close to a keep, so we won't keep it. This hand's fantastic, so we'll keep that. I think we might actually fetch on turn 1. Trying to think if that's correct. It would allow us, if we draw another fetch land, to fetch to get a 2nd card in the graveyard, and the Thought Scour would post up to 5 cards in the graveyard. It's obviously going to be super awkward if we scratch fetch land at the top. We're not going to be able to keep it then, but I think opening ourselves up for the possibility to turn 2 Tassiger is just an insane upside that we should take. A Dispel is a card I would like. Alright, I think I'm going to keep the Dispel. I'm going to take myself off the turn 2 Tassiger possibility. I'll Steam Vets an Ancestral, play the Tarn, then Thought Scour with a Dispel, hopefully draw a 3rd land and can Fulminator Mage, then on a following turn could Tassiger plus Dispel. So we're looking at 2 draw steps to find an untap land if we do that. Is that right? I guess we can just ignore the stupid Dispel altogether and just immediately try to find a 3rd land to start getting our opponent with Fulminator Mage. That might actually just be better. Okay, that sounds better to me, actually. Not sure if that's correct, but I like opening up the turn 2 Tasker line again. And I like the idea of, I just want to maximize my draws to Fulminator Mage. So I'm going to get a Watery Grave. This land can't fetch a basic swamp, so we're not even going to try to play to that line. Harrison, don't worry, I'm well aware of the timer. I'm not too concerned. My opponent's got 6 minutes on me, but most of that time is just spent hanging out with y'all. I mean, Ben, I think it's really true. I mean, hopefully your teammates also see that you're one of the biggest assets to that squad. Alright, didn't end up finding that land. But I will go ahead and thought scour myself right now. So I'd like this one to resolve, but if they want to counter it, say okay with me. Alright, we did find the land. Now I'd figure out if it's correct to play the turn 2 task or get a second visions going. Usually I don't like putting visions on back-to-back turns. And I kind of would rather actually have my opponent just deal with this silly Tassiger. So I think I'm actually going to hold this visions for one more turn. Possibly two more if I do that, though. So end up just getting basic island. Yeah, I'd get another water grave, go to 14, screw it. This dangles it for 2 turns. Actually, no, screw it. We're going to Fulminator. Or not Fulminator, sorry. Ancestral into Fulminator. Little odd, not the most clean lines here as I end up taking a little bit more damage, but I think I technically should have Steam Vents there and then fetched a Swamp on the 3rd turn. Alright, my opponent doesn't have a Thought Scar. That's really great for us. Reason for doing this is the Ancestral would have had to wait for 2 turns, as I certainly want to cast this Fulminator Main next turn. Interesting. I think my opponent's on a 1-lander. They fetched a tap land and then Ancestral. Interesting. They drew another, or they have another land, so that's odd. Creepy Tar Pit, welcome to the party. Would like to pay some more lives. Self-inflicted suicide on this side of the table. Let my opponent go to untap here. If they want to get to fetch a 2-mana spell in their upkeep, I'm fine with that. Now that they're going to take a crap ton of damage, I'll blow up their watery grave. I think I auto-dealed to that. I don't know what happened there. Yeah, didn't think so. I really feel like my opponent's mana light based on the sequence they made. Either that or they're mana heavy, so hopefully it's the former, not the latter. So now we got a Visions on 1 and a Visions on 2. We get a Tassiger down, we get a Tar Pit down. I think we want to leave our Terminate and our Fulminator. I'm trying to think if we want to leave any of these other cards. I guess since we can just leave a land. Oops, I don't want to exile that one. That's like literally the best card in my graveyard. Get rid of the Thought Scour and get rid of 2 lands. And then we'll get our Tar Pit down. Alright, opponent can't even terminate because they played a basic island. We're now threatening with 7 power on the battlefield. We've got 2 draw 3s coming off suspend. Our opponent's in a pretty dicey spot. Again, didn't crack their fetch lands. Still makes me feel like they're land light, but they keep rattling lands off, so clearly I'm wrong. Alright, looks like they do have the terminate here. Later, Tassigoyf. We'll see you in a bit, though, buddy. They've got a second Ancestral of their own. Alright, so our first Visions comes off suspend here, so we're going to draw up to 5 cards this turn, and up to 9 cards on the following turn, so we should need to get 2 cards out of our hand on these turns. Fulminator Mage and Tassiger are pretty freaking fantastic. We're going to Tassiger, Ancestral Visions, and Fulminator Mage. It's going to clean out our graveyard, but perfectly A-okay with that. So, black, red, black. Get Fulminator down. We're going to go ahead and blow up this Steam Vents right now to try to take them again off of Terminate mana. Just keep them down. Let's suspend this Visions. Get this Tassiger out there. We have a Terminator in our yard, so I'm actually just going to leave a Fulminator Mage. I'm sorry, we have a Terminator in our hand, so I'm going to leave a Fulminator Mage in the graveyard in the event that we draw a Kolaghan's Command, of which we have not just yet. I'm sorry, I don't have my opponent's graveyard clicked out so everybody can see it more clearly. What's up, Danny? How goes, buddy? Alright, blue and a black. What does a blue and a black do? Tasker of their own, I assume? We'll just terminate that. Yep, perfect, perfect, perfect. So yeah, you're seeing this game's playing out very similarly to how like a Delver Mirror plays, with just like bigger, more powerful threats. And I really think the land destruction is certainly correct on the play. We're not sure if it's correct on the draw just yet. Ooh, Snappy Doo, you don't say. Snappy Doo. I don't think we need to activate Tasker and get back Fulminator Mage. I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to terminate this silly Tasker out of the way and attack with Tar Pit. So we'll terminate this thing. Later, Banana King. You served us well. Served my opponent well, I guess. My opponent's getting an Ancestral off suspend. They're going to have to spend some time dealing with this crazy board. This puts them down to 9. If they can't answer this Tasigur, things are going to put them into dire straits pretty quickly here. Give face camera Rito. Yeah, GCAC, I didn't spend any time actually trying to fix up the stream in between the first stream this morning and the game, so I want to deal with the webcam tomorrow. I need to go out and get a dock which has more USB ports for my laptop, as I believe all 4 of them are in use. So I'm going to do that tomorrow morning. I'm going to try to aim for a stream tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening. Tassipur. I have seen there's a kitty mat that SCG did, right? Alright, Spawn. I've been talking that card up a lot. I think Disruption Control is really great in Modern right now. Really, really on the cusp of just breaking things wide open again. Oh, another Fulminator Mage. So that's going to really force our opponent to go get a basic mountain. I think I want to fire at my Tar Pit here. I think I want to get frisky. Let's see, if they have a Kolaghan's Command, I think that's probably the worst thing that can occur for us, excuse me. But getting them to 6 is really great because we have Snapcaster and Bolt, because we can line up a Bolt, Snapcaster, Bolt play. So I'm going to fire up my Tar Pit, as I think that puts my opponent in lethal range pretty effectively here. With the plan of, if one of them gets killed, I'm going to Fulminator Mage what I'm hoping is my opponent's red source they end up making. I could have left open double red there, and represented I might have double Bolt, but I don't think that's going to really change my opponent's lines at all. I think they have a pretty self-explanatory line of play that they're going to have to make this turn, which is kill one of these terrifying threats coming at them. I'd expect this to get basic mountain. Yep, does get basic mountain. Expect to be Kolaghan's Command, shocking this creeping Tar Pit and buying back Tasigur. It is. Okay, so that'll die. This puts my opponent down to 4 life. Now we have to just make sure here we don't want to, like, just pass the turn and try to leave up. I think that's just going to be less effective. I think I want to take my opponent off all of their black mana. I think, at least. Makes Spell Snare a much better card for my opponent. I could just run out the Fulminator Mage and actually just run the line of attack with both on the next turn. That might also be effective. I have an Ancestral coming off in 2, but they have an Ancestral coming off the turn previous to me. Alright, I've determined that playing this Fulminator Mage is 100% correct. Based on the first line that I took, which was animate my man land to try to get them into Snapcaster and Bolt range. Now it's just a matter of, is blowing up their land correct? And I don't think we need to blow it up, but I could end up being wrong on that. Because my opponent's forced into blocking the Tasigur. So I think the Fulminator is just going to sneak 2 points through for us. So I'd rather run this line where I actually just leave it up as a 2/2 creature. Yeah, I've got an Elemental Mage and a Human Wizard Mage, as well as an Elemental 3/2 unblockable. Cubs fan, yeah, when I'm commentating, I'm really slow at piloting the deck also, as I'm trying to talk through a bunch of different lines that people could be chatting about. So it ends up making the pace of play much slower. It's something I'm trying to work on. People still freak out about the time all the time. I'm not too concerned. I can go into, you know, turtle up mode and just play as fast as humanly possible. I'm perfectly effective at doing that. Most of the time when I'm not piloting this deck on Moto, I would say I've finished most matches with about 10 to 14 minutes left when I'm not talking out all the lines of play. But I F6 way more than you could ever imagine. Okay, so they're escalating to try to do all of the modes. Oh, they're -2 on the Tasigur, so they also have a Lightning Bolt, and they're going to get the Lightning Bolt out of my hand. Interesting. Okay, so that's going to eliminate our Snapcaster Bolt line, as they're going to go to 6 here. They're likely going to have a Bolt for the Tasigur and a copy of their Tasigur. So now we're going to have to Snapcaster terminate theirs out of the way. Okay, so their last card here is the Tasigur. So we're going to Snapcaster or terminate, kill their Goyf, or not Goyf, their Tasigur, put them down to 4 Fulminator Mage with lethal on the table. They're going to be drawing 4 cards off of Ancestral on their draw step, and then on the following turn, we're going to be drawing 4 cards. So they're going to need to basically find a way to counter our Ancestral and beat our creatures on the table, and beat the top cards of our deck, as we're the aggressor right now. So, hindsight, it would have been better if we had just gone for... Oh my gosh, what a draw. Okay, well, speaking of great draws, let's go ahead and Snappy Do here the Terminate. And we have another 2-1 we can just flash in if our opponent does do anything dicey. But first things first, we're going to go drop them down to 4. We're going to have 4 points of damage sitting on the table. There's a merit to just running the Snapcaster Mage out, but I think it's really difficult for our opponent to answer the 2 Snapcasters on the table and beat the 4 cards that we're going to be drawing off the top of our library. That I'd rather hold on to it rather than try to get it down before a Spell Snare. Yeah, the Brutality was really good. Maybe the Brutalities are really great. After watching that, I'm more open to bring them in on the draw. I think it's absolutely wrong to not have your Fulminator Mages on the play. My opponent drew a ton of lands. Imagine if they didn't draw a ton of lands. They would have just died. Alright, Serum's good for us to see. Yeah, I can't imagine playing Horde on stream. You always have to constantly think about every single card in your deck and what you can tutor for at any given moment. That just sounds too hectic to me, Harrison. Alright, a tapped land. Black. This is another collective Brutality with a bunch of different modes going on. Maybe my opponent found a Snapcaster Mage. Is going to terminate my Snapcaster Mage right this second. I guess they'd be much better off Snapcaster bolt my Snapcaster Mage and leaving up in blue-black land. Oh yeah, I missed tons of lines of play. Yeah, but they also just had 4 lands before any of their Ancestrals came off suspend then, which, not the easiest thing to do in this deck, especially when my opponent didn't play a single cantrip the first 2 turns of the game. Alright, terminate targeting the Fulminator Mage. That's kind of crazy. Alright, we'll kill their Creeping Tar Pit. That really makes me want to flash in the Snapcaster Mage. Figure out what's going on here. So they're putting blue-black in their pool? What the heck is this? I don't understand what's happening anymore. Oh, another Tasigur. Okay, so we can Snapcaster and bolt it. If we draw a Terminate, obviously we just have the win, so we'll F6. We'll draw our 4 cards. There's obviously merit to flashing the Snapcaster Mage in, but K-Command kills them here. K-Command kills them here. Perfect. That's a lot of Snapcaster Mages. So let's go ahead and play this. Get back, yield, Lightning Bolt. Alright, we did it. We managed to win the mirror. We're Grixis Masters. And we'll even get the rub-ins here of making them discard their last card and shocking them. You gotta get your rub-in values. Snap, bolt, snap, baby. Snap, bolt, snap. Good job, MTV bot. Love you. Cord players are always super smart and handsome. Heck yeah, code span. They must have some -1/-1 effect. Yeah, I don't really know what was going on there, Ben. Maybe my opponent felt they needed double red, really highly, but I don't know. They discarded a Polluted Delta, so given all the information, I mean, I would have certainly have killed my Snapcaster Mage. Maybe they didn't want to put it in my graveyard, fearing if I drew a Kolaghan's Command. Maybe that's their line of reasoning, if they're like, well, I can't really beat another Snapcaster Mage, so I just won't put it in the graveyard. At this point, I'm better off making myself discard. Well, I'd rather get all the information, what did my opponent have? Yeah, CHMTG, I still have no idea who you are. I'm just not a problem solver, apparently. Not very good at solving puzzles. Despite literally playing Magic at a semi to professional level. You would think I'd be better at solving puzzles. What's up, Snap Value? How goes? They could have Electrolyze in their deck, Ben. Yeah, that's a cool idea. Big fan of my work with Grixis, fighting the good fight for his control measures. Heck yeah. I mean, I tried a bunch of different decks in Modern. And basically I found that I didn't truly love any of them. And it felt like in an Eternal format where it seemed like they were going to do limited bannings. The best way to really play... I make really weird noises a lot. Oh, maybe that's like me changing positions on this chair, because I literally just stole a chair out of... I don't have a desk at home. I'm literally sitting here with my computer up on my dresser, and I grabbed a random chair from my dad's desk downstairs. And it's like a little fold-out chair. So I kind of shift positions on all the time so I don't get comfortable. Yeah, I tried a bunch of different decks. I wasn't in love with them, and I fell in a format where they're going to do limited bannings. The correct way to do it is find a deck that you truly love, you truly enjoy all the play patterns to it, that you find a really deep enrichment with. And I just wasn't finding that for most of the decks until I requalified for the Pro Tour. I got to team up with Michael Majors and Jerry Thompson. And, oh god, we're fighting against Dredge. Okay. Our hand's pretty bad to fight Dredge with. And we ended up starting to play some Grixis together, mostly at Majors' volition, I think, and Jerry just loves all those cards. But, I mean, it didn't take much to sell me on, hey, we're going to put a bunch of Snapcaster Mages in our deck, a bunch of sweet random cards that are cool, and we're going to figure out over time what's the best. And, I mean, since then I've been playing Grixis. It's been 2.5 years now. No, maybe not 2.5 years. 2 years, I think. Alright, so our opponent had a Grave Troll. We're going to expand this up this way. Tell me if this is super annoying and you absolutely hate this in chat. We're getting Faithful Saluting, and Dredge, Grave Troll, Dredge, Stinkweed Imp. They had Narcomoeba, an Amalgam. They've got a Bloodghast here, a Conflagrate. Haunted Dead, that's an interesting one. Most lists don't have a singleton copy of Haunting Dead. That's usually, I'd say, about 30% of lists. Alright, so our opponent's going to be getting a bunch of free creatures. Hooray. Lovely. Of note, with their Insulin Neonate, they ended up dredging their copy of Life from the Loam. Alright, so we've got the Bloodghast Army and Amalgam. You know, the casual 8 power in play on turn 2. We've got an Ancestral Visions on Suspend. We're probably a favorite. Well, I mean, he said Jark. I asked if it was Mark, but he said no, so... Well, maybe he didn't say no. Somebody else said no. I thought it could have been Mark Jacobson. I think I'm close enough with Mark that he'd be willing to screw with me on stream, because it's kind of funny, and... Hell, I'd probably screw with me, too, on stream. If I were one of my friends, I mean, most of my friends know I just kind of laugh about it and think it's funny. Alright, I think I'm gonna Scalding Tarn, fetch basic island here. As I need to start getting going for this Tasker to get it in play. I don't think terminating any of my opponent's stuff's really gonna get me anywhere, unfortunately. I would expect to be dead probably here in 2 turns. But maybe this turn can find us 2 Cryptic Commands, and maybe we'll turn the game around. So we have a Snapcaster and a Thought Scour on top. We're gonna certainly keep the Thought Scour. I think the Snapcaster Mage is pretty bad here, which is really tilting to say when Snapcaster Mage is one of your worst cards. So we'll put this Ancestral back up on Suspend. We're very likely to go mill ourselves with Thought Scour, play Tassiger, play Sulphur Falls, take a 7-ball. Then they have a Conflag, they combat with everybody. They have 4 cards. So, I mean, we're dead if our opponent has a green source in their hand for their Life of the Loam. Or we're dead to milling over 2 Narcomoebas too, and they have double Conflagrate now. Okay. Alright, I'm going to close the graveyard for now, as we're just going to be dead here in a second, but... yeah, UPS, my dude, we're currently 1-0, as Harrison had said. But we're about to be 1-0 and down a game. The worst 1-0 you can be. Alright, opponent doesn't have another land, but they have a bunch of freaking nonsense on the battlefield. So you can tell I don't derive great pleasure from playing against this deck. I don't think it's like super busted or anything, but I just don't find it very fun. There's a lot of frustrating moments where you just feel a little bit hopeless. I end up leaving this Cryptic in my yard. In the weird case where I draw a bunch of Cryptics in a row, can keep tapping their team, attacking with Tasigur. I'm done on the board now, I think. I didn't actually count any of it. 7. Oh, I forgot about the Haunted Dead too. I'm like super dead, so whatever. Yeah, I thought you were David Bayardo. Like maybe you were just lying, but it rhymes with Jark. Teach that freaking zombie a lesson. Thanks, Cross of all Momentum. Take it easy. I think my opponent is putting it together that I'm dead with this block. So they're just gonna let me die. Ben, I mean, it wasn't like David actually rhymes with Jark, but... Alright, so this matchup, I think sideboarding is not too complicated in this matchup. You bring in the Anger of the Gods. The Fulminator Mages you only bring in if you see Bridge from below. Surgical Extraction is the best possible card you can have against them. You don't want any of the discard effects. Negate's also great as Cathartic Reunion is one of their most important cards. However, given that Cathartic Reunion is one of their most important cards, Spell Snare is still pretty bad, as that is the only card it can counter. Sorry, Negate not hitting Cathartic Reunion is hitting Conflagrate. Cathartic Reunion is one of their better cards, but I'm not usually a big fan of Spell Snare, but I think we end up leaving it in because I forget what all the other cards we get to cut are. I know we cut the Engineered Explosives. I like cutting down to 1 copy of Terminate, and I like cutting all the copies of the Bolts. That leaves us with 7 cuts. What were the other cards? The Damnation is also good. There we go. Because we usually can Surgical off their ability to play the game, but then need a way to clean up the nonsense going on the board. Normal creature removal is not how you want to be fighting in this deck. All of their creatures are resurrection creatures, either through the Dredge ability, they can skip their draw step and repick them up, or they have abilities where they just get out of the graveyard for free. The only one that doesn't really is Narcomoeba, but that is not a creature that you tend to die to too often. Oh, the Staticaster. I forgot Staticaster. I'm sorry, Staticaster. You're definitely supposed to be in here. Okay, so we need to cut 1 extra card. Why do I have an extra card I used to not have? Oh, it's the Negate. I didn't used to have the Negate. Okay. I can just have a Spell Snare for that. It's way better. Get out of here, Spell Snare. You're way worse. Remember when you could Bloodbraid into Liliana? I wasn't actually playing Magic when you could do that. I guess that's not technically standard either, so you guys are talking modern, so I was playing Magic then, so I'm a liar. Don't listen to me. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to lie to everybody. Yeah, you don't want the Staticasters. Yeah, Bloodbraid into Liliana was kind of messed up. Casting free spells is just not the best mechanic at all. Or random spells, for that matter. So Cascade just incorporates a lot of things that I don't like about some of the things that people complain about in Modern. Oh yeah, just a Lion Fool. Yeah, I think we died on turn 3 there. I guess it was turn 4. I put a Mr. Land Drop. So yeah, turn 4, perfectly fine. I mean, within the realms. Make sure we mash the submit deck button. I didn't realize we were at 7 seconds. We're 007ing it though. Ancestrals are really good in this matchup still. Is we really need to grind the game out super late. We can usually get them to the point where none of the cards in their deck do anything. The just real important thing here is just finding a Surgical Extraction. Alright, would love to play first here. We have an Anger, a Thought Scare, or a Kolaghan's Command. We have the ability to cast the Anger. We're going to have to go Creeping Tar Pits, Steam Vents, Scalding Tarn to get what is likely basic Mountain, as that's going to get us to 3 blue, 2 black, and 2 red. This hand is fairly weak. That being said, I think I'm going to keep it as we have a K command that'll get back a Snapcaster Mage if we manage to find it. If we somehow also manage to find a Surgical Extraction, we'll be able to Snapcaster Surgical something. Anger's going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting in this hand, and it's a card that does a lot of heavy lifting in the matchup. But a very good Dredge Pilot can play around this hand really effectively. I haven't played against AVB before, but, I mean, they didn't do anything wrong last game, so I'm not willing to give them credit yet that they're not a fantastic Dredge Pilot. Alright, Serum Visions. Given that I've drawn Serum Visions, I'm likely to want to Thought Scour myself, and then Steam Vents into Serum. We ended up drawing a Flooded Strand. We did find a Surgical, so if we found a Snapcaster Mage, now we're in a really good spot. Gonna hold on to this Flooded Strand because it's possible one of 4th land untapped. So let's get the Steam Vents out here. We'll pay the 2 life. We're only gonna get to keep one of these Scry cards, and I think that's fine because I'm not certain I wanted to fetch a second Steam Vents there and shock myself yet, or get the basic Mountain. Tassiger and Cryptic. Cryptic is a good card in this matchup, but I would much rather have a Tassiger to start clocking my opponent than I would a Cryptic Command. I'm going to end up topping both cards, but I just don't see any realistic world where I don't anger next turn unless my opponent just has truly heinous dredge draws. So I'm going to end up topping both of these cards, but goal is to play Tasker on turn 4. K-Command is kind of hanging out, not doing much right now, but a lot of that has to do with drawing 2 lands. God dang it, it's because I have Facebook open again. I'm sorry about that, guys. I have a headbuds plugged into my mic, and I think it picks it up. Sorry about that. Yeah, I would be very surprised if Second Son Razor got him banned. Alright, the Trolley Polioli. They get back 2 Narcomoebas. Holy cannolis, they have 2 Bloodghast. That's the worst card for us to see because I'm pretty sure it's a May return. So if our opponent's pretty cunning here, they can play around this anger. Of note, they brought in Lightning Axes or had Lightning Axes already in their deck. Faithful Saluting, they have no Dredger, so we're not getting totally annihilated here. Yeah, sorry, Harrison, my bad. I'll make sure I always close Facebook from now on. Somebody told me I can mute tabs, but again, I'm not the most technologically proficient individual, so yeah, our opponent's no-knowing. Our opponent's been around the block before. Hopefully getting out this Tassiger on the next turn will get them to adjust that. So we're going to be able to play the Tar Pit, or actually better yet, we'll play the basic island, exile everything but our Surgical, and leave that Cryptic on top for right now. Because I do believe the Cryptic is something I want to draw. Of note, we just exiled a Watery Grave. So hopefully our opponent here doesn't actually have access to another Lightning Axe, so that could allow them to do some pretty filthy things to us. Alright, so fetch land and end step. Let's see if they bring back their Bloodghast. I would expect them to do so, given the situation. It's also going to be pretty odd on whether or not we actually block a Bloodghast here. They hit 1 Amalgam, 1 Narcomoeba, and 1 Bloodghast. Opponent's going straight to combat. I think it gives up the story too much if we don't block, so I am going to block the Bloodghast. I'm going to hope my opponent really just has a land and brings back the Bloodghast. But Cathartic Reunion instead of conflagrating the Tassiger. Holy cannolis, just a million things are happening. What is going on over here? Okay, let's open this crap up. Opponent has 2 Amalgams, 2 Bloodghast, a Leyline of the Void, 3 Amalgams, sorry. They did bring back 1 of the Bloodghast, so we are going to get to exile all these Amalgams here, because they didn't do this in the end step because they didn't play a fetch land. So they're going to be left with 1 Bloodghast after we get to annihilate all this with an Anger. They only have 1 Conflagrate. So we're not actually in that horrendous of a position. I think since we're going to 11, the Bloodghast isn't going to have haste unless they fetch and then Conflagrate us to give the Bloodghast haste. Okay, hold on. There's some other creature here that I haven't seen before. Enters the battlefield. Dude, you control a +1/+0 this turn. Okay, so this is basically going to be turned off here once we Anger Gods away all these creatures. And the only other card in their graveyard that matters is this 1 key piece of dredging, but they also have the Stinkweed Imp. And we know in their hand they have a Grave Troll and a Stinkweed Imp. So we know 2 of the 5 cards in their hand, and they have 2 spells essentially. 3 spells. Oh, sorry, I didn't say the second Conflagrate. They basically have 3 spells in their graveyard now. Alright, so we'll draw our Cryptic. We'll go ahead and fetch the basic mountain right now so we can Anger. Hopefully our block there did a number where we convinced our opponent, hey, it's time to get going here. I think it was a poor resurrection personally, but alright. Attack them. We need to start clocking them. We do have a Cryptic that'll tap their team for a little while, but this is a game that we could possibly win. Opponent ghosting confirmed. They could not have been ghosting if they brought back their Bloodghast there. There's no way. I don't believe that. And heck, if our opponent wants to ghost us, whatever. I don't know what the hell just happened. Alright, they dredge Grave Troll. They just cast Loam on Mountain Bloodstained Mire and Steam Vents. So they're going to get back their 1 Bloodghast. They're likely going to conflag this for 5 and us for 2, and then hit us down to 7 is what I would guess. They conflag 7 to the face. Interesting. Okay. So now we're at 2. You're a surgical. Okay. So now, since we have a surgical, what do we want to do? Let's figure out exactly what's going on in our opponent's graveyard here. They have all the Grave Trolls in the world. They have a Scourge Devil, which is lethal combat damage. I thought they had a Conflagrate. They do have a Conflagrate still. Right, this is a 2-2 that would become a 3-2 off its ability. Creatures you control. Okay, so it includes itself. It's a 3-3, so it becomes a 4-3. They have a Haunted Dead that they can also draw up to. Likely off of these loams. Yeah, being a 3-3 rather than a 2-2 is actually really rough here. It means I can't attack. Also can't fetch a black source now because it's a Flooded Strand and not a Bloodstained Mire. Okay, so if we play the Flooded Strand, that sounds stupid unless we're going to use Cryptic. What do I expect my opponent's line to be? They seem unearthed to just an activated ability, right? It doesn't say then cast this from the graveyard. Yeah, return, so it's just an activated ability. So we can't counter it with Cryptic. We'd be able to tap it and then we get exiled and end stuff. That'd be fine. My current thinking is to likely surgical the Conflagrate using our black mana, obviously, because we don't want to kill ourselves. Playing the Flooded Strand to hold up Cryptic. If our opponent goes for the kill, tap their team with Cryptic, draw a card. If they don't go for the kill, what are they doing on their turn? They're getting back Loam and building up for multiple Haunted Deads turn after turn. How are we beating that? We're not doing very well against that either. I wonder if there's a line we take this turn where we actually just let them dredge and we try to make them discard in their draw step and shock the Bloodghast. Problem is then we're not creating any value on the board because we can't attack because of the silly Scourge Devil again. Yeah, Spawn of Hastur, I totally agree. I think that Ancient Stirrings is just a really weird card. Yeah, Ben, he ended up just hitting me for 7, which obviously ended up being a better line because I didn't realize exactly what was going on with the Scourge Devil because I'm just not very smart. Like, me sneaking in 4 damage, I guess didn't actually end up mattering because the 2 damage from the Bloodghast, I'd still be at 4 and I'd still just be dead in 1 Scourge Devil hit, but I think it'd be better to be at 4 here than it would be at 2. Alright, so basically I think our decision trees come down to whether or not we surgical the Conflagrate or the Life from the Loam. I think both the Loam and the Conflagrate require, both the Haunted Dead and the Conflagrate requires cards in their hand. Of note, they have a crap ton of Faithless Lootings in here too. It looks like the full set of them. I don't think I can realistically attack here. I assume you can only activate Unearth as a sorcery. Yep, Unearth only as a sorcery, okay. So if I wanted to get really frisky, where I like fetch down to 1, attack with Tassiger, like, tap my opponent's Bloodghast. Problem is I can't leave the Conflagrate if I'm doing that because I'm at 1. So I think everything leads me to believe I have to surgical this Conflagrate and try to fight through the Haunted Dead. so I don't think I can actually exile the loam. I think we should have to grind through it. Alright, so yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll go ahead and surgical. Where did it go? Conflagrate. I do not want to kill myself, so I will pay the manas. Take that one. That was the last one left. This is our remaining libraries. A Bloodghast, a Narcomoeba, an Amalgam. A bunch of Cathartic Reunions, a bunch of lands. Unfortunately, it's not very likely my opponent dredges that many more times, so it's unlikely I can just deck them, but that is a very likely win condition, too. Flooded Stream, let's go. Alright, let's see. Is there any reason to cast this immediately? I don't think so. Or crack this, rather. Because obviously, if my opponent doesn't go for anything, I'd rather get a Watery Grave. You think I have to extract life from the loam? Yeah, Ben, I see that, but I don't think there's any way I can actually beat the Conflagrate sitting in the yard. So my opponent didn't dredge the loam. Middle of Reunion and 2 of the remaining lands. Loam up 3 more lands. Drakmore Salvage, Bloodstained Mire Mountain. Okay, that is fine. I could Cryptic that there. That'll prevent my opponent from getting back the Hunted Dead, but I think it's possible my opponent wouldn't unearth here. Doing that. So they are going to unearth here. Perfectly fine by me. Now, they have a Bloodstained Mire. I should have taken a picture of their deck. To figure out if they had another black producing land. I would assume they usually have 2 Blood Crypts. I should have taken a picture. Does anybody know if they had a second Blood Crypt in their deck? I'm trying to figure out if we can, like, bounce the Bloodghast here and strand it. Currently, the black land they just added to their hand, the Drakmore Salvage, comes into play tapped. We can't Surgical Life. We were at 2 points of life. No, whatever. This can happen. Fetch down to 1. I think we're just going to end up tapping their team and drawing a card. So yeah, let's do that. Drew a Counter Squall. That's not bad. Fortunately, don't have 2 black. Again, that's coming back to bite us here. So we're going to need to Serum Visions right now, try to find some action. Ancestral. Steam Vents is certainly bad. The second copy of Serum. We're going to be on 6 mana on the following turn. We have no creatures to buy back currently. Basically looking at a blind draw, or do we have the time to Serum? Almost assuredly our opponent's going to go for the Haunted Deadline. Possibly, Ben. That's what I'm looking at. They have 1 Bloodghast, 1 Amalgam, 1 Narcomoeba as their spells left. They're not technically in a spot where they have to give back creatures. We're going to have to Kolaghan's Command for sure on this turn. Almost assuredly, unless they bring it back on the following end step. I think this Serum Vision, since it gives us extra looks if we happen to find a second cantrip, is correct to take. So I will end up taking it. It's a little awkward, but play the creepiest of tar pits. Not looking to activate Tasker here. I need to cast a spell, so I'll suspend this Visions, and we're leaving it back to block, of course, so we'll pass the turn back. See if our opponent dredges here. They could just dredge Troll and just make a ginormous thing. They did dredge Troll. Okay, so we're actually not that far away from milling them out now. They unfortunately hit their Narc Amoeba. So that's going to make things even tougher on us. Thankfully, we do have a bunch of chump blockers for the Troll, so I don't actually think the Troll's that insane. No worries, Danny. Welcome back. Looks like opponent's going to make their little free roll attack here. Does not end up doing it. Alright, so they're holding up for the Make a Spirit with the Haunted Dead. Seems interesting to me to mill 6 there then. So we're going to go ahead and... Unfortunately, the only modes are going to go to shock and discard, but it's not the end of the world, as it takes out the number of Haunted Dead activations they get. So we'll make them discard a card. Kill Narco. Wish we had a Snapcaster Mage, but... we're going to need to find a way to control the second flyer here. Likely need to find the Terminate. Yes, Adam, it will. Ben, the problem is we're just dead every which way if we are attacking, though. So that's sort of the awkwardness there. Like, I don't disagree that we're not really in a winning spot because we're not attacking, but I don't think we can win by attacking currently. Go ahead and cast the Serum. We're going to need to find a good spell off of this. Another Surgical. So now we can Surgical it in response to the Haunted Dead activation, which is kind of absurd that we're still going to be in this. Both these fetch lands are bad. Unfortunately, we don't have double blacks, so we're not going to be able to also be able to block or attack the Tar Pit, so we can't even attack here. But when our opponent goes for the Haunted Dead activation, we are going to be able to Surgical their Haunted Dead. So them sitting here playing around Anger allowed us to peel our last copy of Surgical. It's a fun game. Hopefully people are enjoying this one. There's a lot of crap going on here, so if you're lost, I don't blame you at all. This is a bunch of nonsense. Certainly, I believe our opponent has played pretty reasonably this game. I mean, I don't know if I would have brought back on turn 3 when we had the Tasker in play, but I think that they were trying to set up for a lethal attack on the following swing because of that Scourge Devil. So I think their line ended up being very reasonable, because I thought it gave their creatures haste, but apparently that's a different one that sees play in Legacy. Oh yeah, Ben. Gotta peel your other one-outers you got there. I wonder if it was correct from my opponent in response to the Serum to, like, bring back their Haunted Dead, but it sounds pretty wrong to me. Alright, obviously not attacking here. Again, our goal is to survive 3 more turns and deck our opponent. It's kind of unreal that that's the plan, but here we are. Alright, so they're activating Haunted Dead, discarding their hand. We're going to pay a black mana and exile that Haunted Dead. Still at 1 life. First thing we're going to do is make sure to click the silly one in the graveyard so we don't lose. So they have a Stinkweed Imp they can't possibly cast. They have a Bloodghast, a Confluence, a Cathartic Reunion, which is a dead draw, a Bloodghast, which does kill us in the spot here, so we do die if they peel that. So technically, if they loam here, they're very likely to kill us. So hopefully that doesn't end up happening. And they can no longer dredge back Grave Troll. Dredging at all is pretty dicey for them in this spot. They dredge back Drakmor Salvage, trying to hit, and they hit Stinkweed Imp and Cathartic Reunion, so their deck's Mana Confluence, Blood Crypt, Prized Amalgam, Bloodghast. Yeah, it's a good thing they didn't make a dicey bounce your Bloodghast attack there. So they're flashing back a Loam, Faithless Looting, excuse me. So this is going to almost assuredly find them their other guys. So I think we need to counter this. I think we have to counter this. I don't really want to counter it, obviously. It feels bad to counter this, but... Our opponent has 2 creatures left. One can't even be cast. They can't cast the other one unless they play the Drakmor Salvage this turn. And they can't dredge any more of their cards except for their 1 remaining Loam. So I think this allows us to block a Creeping Tar Pit, so I'm going to go ahead and counter this. Interesting. Opponent didn't free roll attack us there. So they can't kill us on the board anymore, it's these Tar Pits. No reason to suspend this one, so I'm just going to keep the hidden information from my opponent. I think we may have gotten there, though. It's going to be really close. So they naturally drew this turn, which I think is probably correct. They're going for the looting. That one's going to resolve. They're choosing to naturally draw both times. So this is why I don't like... I guess it's fine. You just end up discarding. Oh no, they hit the amalgam too. Okay. So now we have to block. The amalgam comes back. They have one more land. So we do need to hit one more spell here. Alright, it's gonna be a sweet one. We're gonna have to hit a spell on the last turn of the game to keep us alive. Alright, let's... Black, blue... Animate. Blocks on both. We either needed the Stinkweed. Well, no, they didn't have a untapped land unless they also held onto the Blood Crypt. Yeah, I guess we did need... I guess either way they're getting 2 creatures here. So we knew we needed a draw spell. That will keep us alive because we can block the Amalgam and shoot down the Bloodghast. Alright, we ended up decking them. Kind of an unreal game. So we stole game 2 there thanks to a top-decked Surgical into a top-decked removal spell, it looks like. So our opponent should draw. They can't dredge because they don't have cards remaining. The last card of the deck is the Mana Confluence because they had already milled over the Stinkweed Imp. Gets back with those. Allows us to flash in the victory condition. I guess we'll just cancel. We'll let them attack. Just block, and shoot the unblocked one. But kind of a freaking sweet victory. Oh yeah, we get to do the very embarrassing Ancestral EO. I don't remember the exact wording on the Alpha Ancestral. I believe it's target player draws 3 cards or bury 3 cards. Yeah, we'll just use the bury 3 cards mode, essentially. You can skip drawing. We'll let you draw on your next turn. You don't have to lose to it on our turn. Alright, so stole that game. Hell of a game. Hopefully you got to watch that one. Oh yeah, Dylan, you missed out. That one was a delight. There were... Yeah, between the voids, 2 in the left column, 1, 3 up from the right. Okay. Jarrett, yeah, that was awesome. Force target opponent to draw 3 cards. Okay, yeah. Force target player to draw 3 cards, yeah. You can have 3 cards. Oh, holy hell. Okay, so they don't have Bridge from Below, so we don't need Fulminator Mages. EEs are just really inefficient. Terminate, not really something we're after. I would just love to have a turn 1 hand where we just have a Surgical Extraction. Thanks, Cody. It was a... certainly had to get lucky. I think we played the game really well. I think we took the only lines that allowed us to stay alive for as long as we did. That's the text of every... Draw 3 cards or force an opponent to draw 3 cards. Yeah, force them to draw 3 cards. I don't need any cards. I got all the cards I need right on the battlefield. But yeah, that was a sweet game. Alright, so we have 1 Snare. Do we want the 1 Snare? Do we want the 1 Brutality? I think the Brutality is kind of just terrible. Spells don't hit anything in this matchup. Snare really only hits Cathartic Reunion and Loam, which sometimes is relevant. We could bring back in 1 more sort of removal spell to fight that instead, but Spellstorm is also just better on the draw. We certainly need the 3 negate effects between the negate and the 2 counter squalls as they fight the Conflagrates. Yeah, Danny, Dredge is so absurdly fast now that if you try to spend 2 mana to put a nice little pretty artifact on the battlefield and think that you're going to get to untap and kill all of those pretty 2-drops, you're dreaming really big. That's dreaming big in Modern these days against Dredge. Dredge is a fast, terrifying deck, but if you shove for the hate for it, they can't really win through the correct hate pieces in the right draw without, drawing their own sideboarded removal. So I think we're going to click back our 6 we clicked back from game 2. I don't think we're changing anything here on the draw. Ancestral's still great. I mean, you saw it there. It picked up some extra cards. Or no, I guess we didn't have one that game, do we? Made them pick up some extra cards. This time we'll try to pick up some extra cards, but hopefully our turn 1 is Surgical, your Golgari Grave Troll off of your Neonate, put an Ancestral on the stack. This hand's just completely unacceptable. You can't keep hands like this against Dredge. The hands that you want to keep against Dredge are the ones that greatly interact, and this hand you're just never going to interact. Like, you're going to terminate a Bloodghast, and you're just going to be dead. So don't keep hands like this. Hands like this are fantastic. This is exactly what we were asking for. We have a Tarn, Tarn, we've got a Surgical, we got an Ancestral Visions. The Cryptic's a little bit out of the way. Snapcaster Mage is an easy keep on the top that gives us 2 copies of Surgical. I would expect this is a game that we have the ability to win. Ator, the reason for Terminate over Bolt is seldom are we racing them. We're usually just eliminating every way that they have to win a match of Magic if we're going to kill them that way. Or we're decking them like we did that game. And very frequently they will play about a 12-12 to an 18-18 Golgari Grave Troll. And you don't have a way to beat that without 1 copy of Terminate in your list. Alright, so there's the Neonate. Given that we topped, I think my opponent should have Neonated there, but that's fine. Alright, we're going to suspend the Ancestral. I ended up playing the Island. I could fetch tapped here. I would like another draw step to figure out what land I need, as I do have double red spells in my deck, and I have double black spells in my deck. And I don't just want to have to automatically fetch up the Blood Crypt, because I still want to play turn 1 Ancestral here. Almost regardless of what my opponent does this turn, I will be Surgical extracting whatever Dredger gets put into the graveyard. Oh yeah, Timmy, this is another one of the really fun matchups. Game 1's just miserable, but the sideboard games are so tricky and so cool. I like it similar to, in fact, okay, so they just don't have a Dredger or something? I don't really understand what's happening here. Bloodghast and a Drakmor Salvage. So we could extract all their Bloodghast. They have a pretty weak dredging hand currently. I think I'm going to Surgical all these Bloodghasts, because we have Snapcaster at the ready, and I'm very likely to Surgical Snapcaster something on the next turn also. And I just don't want to have to deal with these Bloodghasts, as they're really difficult to beat. Hopefully my opponent has some of them in their hand. We can just wreck them really hard. They don't. They have a Faithful Suiting, a Neonate, and some lands. Interesting. So let's take a snippet here of their deck this time, as we miserably failed to do so last time. And I failed Snipping Tool. Snipping Tool's too hard. Please nerf. Alright, Snipping Tool. What are you doing? Come on. Alright. They didn't really change anything. Okay. So they clicked back what looks like the same 60 also. So now we can F6. They're just going to run out what I would assume is another Neonate. Yeah, Spawn of Hastur, I totally agree. It's one of the best cards in the deck, if not possibly even the best card. So I agree with the let's just kill it and we'll worry about it another day. Alright, drew the Water Grave. That's awesome. That means we can go get either red-black or red-blue Swords of the Scalding Tarn. It kind of gives it away if we just play this Water Grave on tap, though, with Snapcaster Mage. But I'm kind of in the mood to actually just exile all their Faithful Salutings, force my opponent to Neonate off their Faithful Saluting. Sorry for hitting my computer there, and that'll probably be a loud noise you guys didn't really appreciate. That might be stupidly aggressive, but yeah, it probably is stupidly aggressive. Alright, we will shock ourselves, though. Probably just hit a Dredger, even though their opponent has 2 instant speed draw effects in play. Alright, let's see. They now have a Drakmor Salvage, a bunch of Faithful Salutings. Okay, so they didn't hit anything extra. I think given they didn't hit anything extra, I do still want to kill these Lootings. Make them sack one of these Neonates and just not get anywhere quickly. I think it's a weird line. I'm not sure if this one's correct. This one could be horribly wrong. Somebody in the chat can let me know if it is. But I think this allows me to shut down what my opponent's doing pretty effectively, as it limits their draws from 6 extra draws to just 2 extra draws they have in play if they don't sack the one in play also. So we know their hands all those lands. That's perfectly fine. They're going to have to try to dredge now the hard way. We still have Staticaster to try to fight the good fight against the Narcomoebas. The Amalgams are going to be a little bit difficult against this hand. We go to 11 here. They ended up playing their Dredger out too, so we're going to be able to put the Staticaster onto the battlefield and just start going. Drew Damnation. I want to preserve my life total a little bit. I'm going to fetch in a way that is going to be a little awkward to most people, possibly, by getting the Mountain here. I certainly want to kill these nonsense goofballs. Should probably attack first. Is there a reason to not attack? Not really that I can think of. No, I'd rather attack first just in case they had a 1 of Narcomoeba. They can hit me for 1. I want to trade damage. I don't want them to trade for my clock. Note, I am paying a little bit less attention to the chat than I'd like to. Clock is a little bit of the essence here because we tanked so long last game. So let's go and put this pretty baby on the battlefield. Zap some Neonates and F6. So we can't really cast either of the spells in our hand right now, which is a little bit odd, but I want to preserve my life total. So they discarded their Stomping Ground. Yep, saves the 1. That's perfectly fine. So we can hit us from 1 again down to 9. Mana Confluence, I believe, was the last land in their hand we know about. Let's just make sure it was. So currently we know Mana Confluence and 2 unknowns because they drew a card off a Neonate that they sacked in response to us trying to shoot and kill. Bringing back Twin. I don't think that's going to happen for a while. I think it is something that could happen in the future, but I don't think is something that's very likely to happen. I empathize with the people that are kind of sick of Become Immense, though. What was this? Hardcasting Stinkweed Up? Oh no, Cathartic Reunion. Hitting a Stinkweed Up. Hitting a Grave Troll. Hitting a Conflagrate. Alright, the wheels are coming off over here. Opponent found a really good draw and a really good set of mills. Spiked a Dredger each time. Alright, game's getting a little tougher now. Gonna get an Amalgam back. So now they have Troll, Imp, Confluence. Drew the Delta. Okay. Given there's no more Dredger over there, it would just put the Dredger in the yard if we dealt with the Neonate right now. I'm just going to play out the Pluto Delta and likely pass. Probably likely taking a hit from this Amalgam this turn, possibly chumping it and just shooting the Narcomoeba. We'll see. I'm very likely to fetch a tapped Water Grave here. Potentially an untapped island if I need to counter something. Okay, so they're going for the Troll in the second main phase, so they would be able to get back additional copies. They hit the other Conflagrate and they hit another Troll and the Scourge Devil. Scourge Devil's +1/+0? +1/+0, okay. Guess there's no more dicey of position here. They have 3 cards. They didn't end up finding a life from the loam, so that's nice. Their opponent's still a couple lands away from just casting Grave Trolls. But we have an Ancestral coming up next turn. Alright, here they dredged. They hit Haunted Dead, Stinkweed Imp, more Amalgams, another Amalgam, and another Narco. So they're going to get back a second Amalgam. So now they have, what, 2 Trolls? So I think here I'm going to chump block and shoot the Narcos. Fetch a tap lane to preserve some life again. No, we're technically at a little bit less life here because of these Conflagrates in the yard. So need to be really cautious with their life total. not particularly in a mood to shock myself. Scourge Devil does represent 4 points of damage. It's really tough for us to ever damnation at this point now, too. Alright, did find a land also, which is nice. So we can fetch an island, play the Tassiger, hold up Cryptic, look to Cryptic tap their team and try to start racing. Remember, they only have 12 cards left in their library now, too. So it is possible that Thought Skyrim might be milling them if they make a big dredge here on a Stinkweed Imp. But I would likely expect them to Haunted Dead. So let's go ahead and fetch because we need the extra card in our graveyard for a 1-mana Tassiger play. Still haven't hit a Loam. So let's exile the graveyard here. And pass the turn back to the enemy. Gonna need a little bit of help this game, but it's gonna be really close. Alright, so they are Haunted Deading. Looks like they just chose to draw a card here instead of dredging, which I think is pretty smart of them. Beginning of combat, let's go ahead and tap all creatures and draw a card, I believe. I think that's better than bouncing an Amalgam with Conflagrates all over the yard over there. Serum Vision's not a bad card. Probe is honestly a card that I think is really close to needing to be banned. I think if once we get to the point where dredge players start putting Probe in their dredge deck, I think is when it needs to go. Thankfully, we haven't reached that point yet, but I think we're pretty close. Alright, they're just hard casting the Stinkweed up in their hand. That resolves. Shoot the Spirit. Polluted Delta. Okay, that would get us a second red if we did manage to find an Anger. However, that would put us to 4, and they have a double Conflagrant in the yard. They're at 2 cards. So we wouldn't just be dead. Need to figure out if we can fetch it tapped. So we are currently just dead to the Scourge Devil in my opponent's graveyard. I think it's 3 mana to bring back. It's only 50 seconds. I need to just make a play. So I'm going to fetch a Steam Vents tapped. Go in Serum. Found a Surgical. Top the Counter Squall. Go ahead and Damnation. My opponent goes to Unearth. I'll go ahead and exile it in response. I think we're going to end up timing out here, but that's fine. I think we may have won this game had it gone longer. Yeah, ended up taking too long when we were tanking about how to play last game, but that's fine. At the end of the day, we made the right line, and sure, we're not going to win the match, but I think we can take solace and we played the game well. Just going to have 6, assuming my opponent's going to Conflagrate me. I guess I have a Haunted Dead, which I'm just going to die to also, yeah. I guess actually we weren't going to win this game. I forgot about these silly amalgams that are running around. Alright, yeah, we were dead, so that's fine. No big deal. Ended up timing out, did actually lose the match. Forgot all these silly amalgams are still running around. If you drop my thought scours. Alright, so we did end up losing. I thought that they had run out of silly amalgams, but obviously I'm silly. Damnation, not angered. Overall, though, I thought we played that match really well. I'm really glad we were able to steal game 2. I did not think we were going to be able to win game 2. But in the end, lost on both time and on life points, so you win some, you lose some. Sorry for ignoring the chat here recently. I'll try to catch back up. Still another thing I'm working on is trying to play faster while reading all of the great stuff everyone has to talk about. I want Treasure Cruise back. Holy cannolis, you're crazy. Matchmaking failed. Opponent was too fearful. Couldn't fight the Grixis menace. Catch RS. You say Smork there as if you're trolling, but I don't think it's that far out of the question. I don't think they would ever do it. I think it would be very bad from a design development standpoint to say, yeah, we're just banning every single card that is Phyrexian mana. I think there was also a spell that said if you cast a card for Phyrexian mana. Well, CHMTG, who are you? You can't have mine until I know who you are. Alright, this is a keep, but it's pretty weak. Is likely a turn 3 task or hand, though. So it's a keep on the mat. We have Ancestral, so it's going to be good in grindy matchups. Hopefully our opponent is on some sort of grindy deck. Looks like we're fighting Infinity, so this hand's just stone awful. Hopefully we draw some goodies. Spell Snare is going to count as a goodie, so we're going to not play the Ancestral here. We're going to kind of leave it as a dead card in our hand until way later in the game. Hopefully we get to catch a Plating or an Arcbound Ravager with the Snare. And worst comes to worst, we just Thought Scour ourselves and try to set up for a Tassiger. If our opponent doesn't have that much power in play. Steel Overseer, definitely under the list of cards that cannot, absolutely not let resolve here. A Delta. A Delta allows us to go fetch a Steam Vent, that gets us to 2 cards. Thought Scour gets us to 5. Tassiger is the 6th card, so we go to 14, and on the board we're currently looking at 11. So that seems like a great play to me. Let's get a Steam Vents. It's unfortunate that our big boy here doesn't block anything. But... oh no, another Ancestral. That's not good. Not good at all. It's going to be a lot different when we're on the play, but sometimes you lose the die roll and your cards are a lot less effective. Ben White, who is it? Oh god, so much damage. So many damages. Need to find a Kolaghan's Command. Find a Kolaghan's Command, we're probably going to be able to turn this game around pretty effectively. But as it stands, we are getting walloped. That is a really bad card. They activate. That comes in for 2. This is 6, so we're currently can't use this Delta. Because they can animate both of their man lands. That creates 2 more artifacts, making this Ornithopter 6 power. The Thorn Ornithopter comes around for 7. This is 9. So we're actually just technically down on the board. So I think we need to play the Swamp untapped and not actually cast anything and hope our opponent doesn't do anything. That's a pretty crappy spot to be in. I guess given that I need my opponent to not do anything at all, I would rather play the Delta to actually be able to fetch another land out of my deck. Yeah, let's do that. We'll hit for 4 because we can't block with our Tassiger. Okay, that's what I thought. I mean, I said that at one point yesterday, and I thought somebody told me no, it's not Mark. So I was like, okay, well, I don't know who it is then. What's up, homie? How it goes? The Etchedest of Champions. Dees. Getting fucked. Pardon my language. Alright, take 7. We got a 1 off our fetch land here. Literally have to answer every permanent in the stratosphere, and that's not really possible. So, I don't believe we have any outs, but... I mean, we also kept a hand that we specifically said don't really want to play against a creature deck, wanted to play against a slow, more grindy deck. Where's our... Oh, do we mill it over? No. Well, shouldn't have played this line there anyways. I should have gotten an island also. Whatever. Alright, well, we're done anyways. Alright, fair enough. That's what I get for talking crap on Affinity earlier. Got thrashed. Yeah, Damnation's on the main deck. We get it after sideboard, though. Overall, I think Affinity's a good matchup, so not too concerned. We get is a Static Caster, Engineer Explosives, 2 copies of Anger, 1 copy of Damnation, and cards we don't like. Counter Squall is really poor here. Ancestral is a card that I'm down to shave. Cryptic is actually pretty solid, so let's go down 3 Ancestrals and 2 Counter Squalls for 5 of all the murder all of your stuffs. Collective Brutality is, I think, pretty mediocre. I think we could bring it in, but I don't think it's a card I absolutely desperately want. I think I'd rather have 1 Ancestral on my deck on the play, and we can readjust on the draw. We could go down to 0 and bring in the Collective Brutality. So that is what I'm going to do. Likewise, buddy. Happy New Year to you. Yeah, Cloudstein, the Manlands, they had Inky and forget the name of the other one all the time. Blinkmoth. Inky and Blinky. You tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, didn't really matter. Alright, sweet. We drew a 1 Ancestral on an opener. We have a K command. This hand's not great, honestly. Drawing 2 Cryptics in the opener is pretty bad. I'd rather another piece of interaction. But I think this is a hand I'm going to keep based off the strength of Kolaghan's command. So we'll go down to 18. Get a Suspend going. In this exact hand, I think the Collective Brutality might have been better. But if we do actually get to the point where our Cryptics turn on, our Kolaghan's command does the amount of work that we're going to need it to do, the Ancestral is going to end up being better in this hand long term. Drew an island, so we'll just get a Blood Crypt out there tapped. Play an untapped island on the next turn. So we can K command and blow some stuff up. So Mox Opal, there's the Mox Opal. Springy Drum. Let's attack the Ornithopter to the drum and an Opal to play a 2-mana spell. Hopefully it's not a Ravager. It is unfortunately a Ravager. Alright, given that it's a Ravager, do we want to do anything really silly with our K command? I don't think so. So I think my plan here is I'm going to likely try to shock the Ornithopter and shatter the Arcbound Ravager. The goal with that is to get them to, rather than move the counters to the Ornithopter, to just try to kill 2 creatures and have them move a bunch of counters onto the Vault Scourge, because they don't have the mana right now to move it on the Inkmoth Nexus, which is their best threat. And if they end up moving counters onto the Vault Scourge and there's only 1 permanent in play I have to deal with Cryptic Command, I think that's the best line of play that I have. I certainly don't want to let them untap and like hit me for more damage or move the counters on Inkmoth Nexus, which is going to be more difficult for me to deal with. Is we've unfortunately drawn 2 more lands rather than, 1 land and 1 piece of interaction here. So I think that's going to be my line of play. Unfortunately, we're going to do it right now. You could argue that it's better to make them discard a card because we know they have all spells in their hand. But I just am in a spot where I want to interact with the board as much as possible. So I'll fire off the K command right now. I think the most likely outcome is they eat the Ornithopter to the Ravager, and likely the Ravager itself to the Vault Scourge. But if they just sack the Ravager and put a counter on the Ornithopter, I'm not that unhappy with the situation. Interesting, sacking the Vault Scourge. So they're just going to move a bunch of counters onto the Ornithopter. Okay, so they have a 2/4 Ornithopter. Interesting. I think the Vault Scourge there is like pretty reasonable, and I wouldn't want to lose it, but it means that they probably have an Edge Champion here that's looking good on the battlefield. Alright, plating. So plating's going to be, it looks like a 6-ball. 7-ball, did I miscount? Oh, there's a Darksteel Citadel. Okay, so Darksteel Citadel was the land leader for the turn. So our Ancestral now is on 1 turn remaining. Hey, silly Exile Pile, get out of here. Alright, so here we drew a Terminate. That's a pretty good draw. Cranial Plating, they do have the ability to move with black if they both play a creature pre-combat and are able to move it. If our opponent boarded in Spell Pierce, it's better to just play this Cryptic on our turn. But I'd rather not just take a bunch of infect damage for no reason, I think. And I think Spell Pierce is a pretty low likelihood of being sideboarded. The reason why I don't want to play Terminate this turn is I'm much more likely to be able to cast 2 spells on the following turn. And I'd rather leave that open. However, if we figure out that, hey, no, we do want to bounce this Ornithopter right now, we'd rather take a bunch of infect damage off of Inkmoth Nexus, like we actually can afford taking a hit for, say, 5 or 6 infect. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They'd replay the Ornithopter 6 artifacts minimum, so we'd be taking 7 infect at a minimum. And we would be better off doing it that way. Sorry, doing it on our own turn, as we'd be basically spending points of life in the terms of infect for tempo. He's playing around Lightning Bolt by putting on top. Okay, that's a cool line. Much better than having a 3-3. No, that's smart. I just don't think that, from my standpoint, I can have a Lightning Bolt based on putting the Blood Crypt into play tapped. Sup, Christian? Appreciate it. Clavstein, I don't think you want Fulminator Mages for Nexus, as it's just a really expensive spell that has pretty low impact if we're looking to fight their manlands in that way. The manlands aren't a big issue, it's more over the 2-mana spells that are the biggest issue. I think I want to... I'm almost willing to accept here that I just lose to a Spell Pierce for some reason. I don't know why I want to buy into that, but... I kind of want to let my opponent go to combat, bounce the Silly Ornithopter, draw a card off the Watery Grave. That way I still have the Scalding Tarn to fetch a red source. So in the event that I draw a second Terminator or I draw a Bolt, I haven't like completely fetched myself into oblivion. So I think I'm going to Watery Grave. It gives my opponent the ability to kill me here if they did end up having to Spell or Spell Pierce or... Stubborn Denial is a card that I've seen before also, but I think he gives me the best chance to win long term, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'll pay 2 life here. My plan is to do it in combat, rather than like upkeep to prevent one more draw step from my opponent. So my opponent drew another Inkmoth Nexus this turn, so we're going to go ahead and let them attack, and we'll bounce the Thopter, it'll clear the tokens off of it, and we'll draw a card here. So return target opponent's owner's hand, and we'll draw a card. Good old bounce your 0-mana creature. If it gets countered, hey, we're dead. Such is life. No big deal. Alright, drew a Serum Vision. It's not a terrible one. Thopter's back again. Edgy Champion. So this also gives us, hopefully, a Damnation would be a nice one. Ooh, another Ravager too. Yuck. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Alright, EE's good. EE can blow up the Edge Champion, but we're currently dead to the plating. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 artifacts. They have access to 9 artifacts because they Inkmoth Nexus. They can double activate Inkmoth Nexuses. So we're currently just down on the board in every capacity. So now we need to figure out in what ways we can interact with what our opponent's doing. They have access to black also, and they can float black because of the Springleaf Drum and Opal, which give them access to move the plating onto the Inkmoth after we tap all of their creatures with command. So we might still just be dead here, actually. That's kind of crazy. So let's try to figure this out one more time. If we end up bolting a Ravager, I think their most likely outcome is sack the Ravager to itself, move the counters to the champion. But then that allows me to figure out if I need to like EE for 0 to kill 2 permanents, we for 2. Do you mean E for 2? Potentially. The problem is if we E for 2, they sack all of their nonsense in play. Potentially, and try to move it on to the Etch Champion. I mean, they would need 3 artifacts in play, so they could leave the Opal and the Drum, so they could sack 1, 2, 3, and move it to a 5 on the Champion. Problem is that we have no way to interact with the Champion. Yeah, I was talking crap on Affinity earlier. Getting pummeled. Double Ravager Plating Draw is getting us. I mean, we knew our opponent had a good hand when they kept a 1-lander. That wasn't an artifact land, too. Bolt the Ravager. They just bolt. We just bolt the Ravager and they just move it onto that Champion. That's. And they still have the Opal and the Drum, and then they animate an Ink Moth. We're still dead. So we can't actually justify a line here where we just move with a bolt to start. So we might have to lead on E for 2, but then we're in a really tough spot against the Etch Champion long term. Okay, so that is the only way we don't die here. Opponent is trying to ask us here to play at a reasonable pace, and I think that's pretty fair. Pretty fair of them. Again, we want to pop this right now as we don't want our opponent moving all the counters onto Ink Moth, as we're not going to be very effective at dealing with it. This also gives our opponent the greatest propensity, I think, to make a mistake. I think our hand's going to be pretty face up here with the Tarn, but I think that's okay. You could go for playland tap team. The problem with that is they then pay black with Springleaf Drum, animate the Inkmoth Nexus after the Cryptic responds, use the black floating, move the plating to it, go to attacks, you try to Lightning Bolt, and they just kill you with sacking things to the Ravager. So you still just end up dying. No, my original moto name was Magician 5, but it ended up getting suspended for a week because I tried to split in the finals of an 8-man and conceded to my opponent, asked for them to give me 2 packs. They wouldn't give me 2 packs, so I reported them, and Magic Online concluded that I had agreed to collusion, so they suspended me for a week, and I think they suspended my opponent for a month. Alright, so they correctly played around Bolt here, so we're going to end up taking 6. Obviously dead if our opponent draws any of their powerful spells. I see no use in bolting this Nexus right now, so I'm not going to. Rather fetch or bet a mana. Springleaf Drum, not really a card I care about. Let's see, let's fetch our Steam Vents. I don't think there's any reason really to bolt this. Above average. I'm not going to say I deserved it, because I didn't, but I'll take it. Sigh. Okay. Trying to think I want to leave a bolt now, or go ahead and Serum this turn. I think I'd rather leave up Serum. So there's no haste effect that I'm dying to. So yeah, I'm just gonna end up Seruming. So it's Damnation, then Serum, play tap Steam Vents. I love when the chat catches up. It's just so amusing to me. Alright, definitely don't want to fetch land. I guess another Bolt is fine. Sure. Oh, a way to kill my opponent. Alright, yeah, sure, why not? Obviously, I take a bunch of damage when my opponent draws a plating, but I'm not really concerned about that. Oh, that kills us. That sucks. Alright, one good draw deserves another. I would say my opponent drew the better card. Ripped. Alright, let's return target opponent's owner's hand and draw a card, because we can't let them untap with that on the battlefield. Terminate. Okay, so we're just gonna get Tassiger out of here. Serum. That. I guess we don't need second copy of Cryptic. No, we don't need the Damnation anymore, right? So, yeah, we don't need the Damnation because if they draw an Edge Champion, we just have to tap their team anyways and try to counter on that front. It would be difficult to draw counter squads is no longer in our deck. Okay, my opponent decided to tap correctly this time to kill me. They figured it out, it looks like. Alright, there we go. We're done. Fair enough. So one great top deck deserves another. Maybe the hand was a little greedy to keep, but... had a K command, 2 Cryptics. The Cryptics, like I said, were slightly... less than ideal, but... Ooh, we got a quad bolt. Alright, that sucks. Losing good matchups today. Not playing well. Half Master Creek can confirm. Yeah, Danny, I started as a math major. I think Ben actually has a... I believe you're working on a PhD in math right now, Ben. Is that correct? Yeah, Morology, I won't lie. I certainly run very well. I mean, if I could choose any card to draw in my deck, I was going to choose to draw a Damnation that turn. It was better to draw than my other EE. Alright, we want a die roll. We've got a turn 1 Ancestral, turn 2 we're going to get the Thought Scour, plus hold up Spell Snare, and then we'll get to turn 3 Tassiger, so this hand's top tier. Great hand. Highly recommend drawing hands like this to this deck. Fetch out our Watergrave as blue-black as our base colors. Could argue it's correct to get Steam Vents because we don't know if our opponent's like on burn or something. Alright, Tron Pilot. This is not a terrible hand against Tron because we do have... They didn't play anything on turn 1. Okay, well, Spell Snare I expect to be very good then. Like I said, we're going to not play turn 2 Tassiger here. We're going to hold up Snare. Be surprised if they just had natural Tron. What in the world? What is this? Chalice for 1? Yeah, that's not happening. Not today, pal. Not today. I came to Magic Camp to cast spells. Undergrad degree mathematics. Okay. Alright, let's get ourselves a Steam Vents. Get this nonsense out of here. Not in my house. Thought Scour ourselves. Get everyone's favorite Banana King onto the battlefield. Unfortunately, we have lots of Banana Kings now. Come on, Banana King. Don't need a million of you. EE and a second copy of Ancestral. Not really in the mood for that. I'm actually going to play the Tar Pit here so we can attack with it on the next turn, or we can activate if we need be. Going to leave the Spell Snare and probably actually terminate my graveyard. I think I'm likely to just attack with Tar Pit on the next turn. Dylan, you think it's Eldrazi based on their keep in the Chalice? I think it's reasonable. Yep, certainly is, because of the wastes. Good call. You're on top of it. I'm glad we left the Terminate. Whoa, Dismember. Alright, well, I'm kind of happy now we have all these silly Banana Kings. Banana King to the rescue. Let's see, we can fetch if we want to hold more cards in our graveyard, but all I want to hold on to is Terminate. So we will pay the full set of price. I don't want to shuffle those 2 mediocre cards back into my deck, so we'll just play Tassagoyf, leaving Terminate. And go on our merry way. Yeah, so we'll get some extra cards next turn because of our Ancestral. Oh yeah, we are the king of the bananas. Yeah, Dental Planner, if you only show up like every other match, we're just playing a Transtron every other round. It's fun, it's amusing, but game 1's usually really tough, and we're usually a favorite in the post-board games. And, I mean, we get a lot of sweet games out of Tron, so hopefully people are enjoying that. I just need to play better in the matchups that I know well, or maybe mulligan better and get some better hands so we can actually, you know, fight up there for some 5-0s, because we're not winning many trophies these days. We're doing a lot of losing. Here, given that I drew 2 Cryptics, I think this game's pretty over. I'm just going to keep attacking for 4 and hold up Cryptic Command. I would like to attack my Banana Lord. If my opponent dismembers it, I'll just crack a fetch, end of turn. Cryptic, counter whatever their spell is, draw a card, play the new Banana King on the next turn, hold up Cryptic again. So they fall to 12. I don't really understand what their hand can be, that this hand was keepable, but... So Reality Smasher, we can counter draw, bolt them to 9. We have 7 power on the battlefield. I think I'm likely to just hit them for 4 to put them to 5. All that being said, I'm just going to fetch a basic island here. So counter target spell, draw a card, choose that one. Drew a second lightning bolt, and that's going to end the game. Bolt our opponent right now. On tap. Play another land. And black. Attack with our fun little creatures. Puts our opponent down to 2, and we'll bolt them here to the damage step. Alright. Classic turn 6 control victories. Any ideas on next Monday's draft in Lake Forest? On the next Monday draft in Lake Forest. I had no idea that there was a draft going on in Lake Forest. That again, I don't really pay attention to the events. I'm going to bed after this match, but I'm for taking some time if you want, Ben. Befan72, give me 1 second. So, Crotask, I assume you're saying that, hey, Kaladesh has been out for a while, people aren't really into playing that. I think what I might look to do is, if you're looking to have a bunch of people come to your shop and draft, maybe try to get people interested in like a chaos draft or something crazy where do recent sets so the players maybe that aren't as invested still know the sets. That might be a reason to not do it. It depends on what your crowd actually looks like. If you have a more invested crowd that, you know, has played Magic regularly for a while, I think you could get them in on the idea of a chaos draft, or if you have Modern Masters product, maybe Modern Masters. Something of that nature, but I mean, if you have a crowd where you know there are some newer players in the group, I think you still want to keep it on Kaladesh draft more than likely. As I think doing a crazy format where people need to know more of the cards is going to be a trouble for the majority of players unless they've just been playing a ton and a ton and a ton. Alright, so Fulminator Mages here are great, Damnation here is great. Let's see, Negate. I think we ended up saying that card sucked last time. Opponent has Warping Whales. Warping Whales maps. A bunch of silly nonsense like that. I think I still like some number of the Surgicals. Let's try to figure out what we did earlier. We don't like the EE. EE was poor. Snare I think is pretty ineffective because they don't have the 2-mana tutor. Get out of here, Snare. Counter Squall for a similar reason I think is going to be less effective. As they're not just looking to slam cards against us, they're looking to slam giant spaghetti monsters, but our bolts and all that jazz are also pretty weak, as they don't have, like, mana creatures to kill, and they don't have, like, sky spawners or whatever to kill. So I think the counter squalls are going to be slightly better than the bolts. The Terminates are obviously fantastic. Oh, I already thought I clicked this E, but apparently I did not. We could cut the last bolt for a negate. Not risking the Limog. Okay, I didn't really consider that. They were in 2, 6, 8, 10 mana. So if they do play Ulamog, they exile our 2 lands. Okay, no, Legion, that's actually a better player, right? I think this is a fine way to go. Leave 1 bolt, 2 counter squall, don't bring in the negate. Don't want the collector brutality, the angers suck. K command is good for Chalice, maybe not enough though. I'm just gonna go and submit this though. We board out some ones. I only boarded in 2 of the surgicals rather than 3, as I think this deck's less all in on its Tron lands. Previous list I saw we played just 1 card, so negate effects are definitely not good. Interesting. If they only played 1 card, we should have boarded out the other counter squall too. We have a lot of Thought Scours in a surgical, so we find a Fulminator Mage. This hand's messed up. This hand's pretty bad otherwise. I think I'm still gonna keep it. We also have the ability to just like mill you. Alright, I hit a Tron land, kill you. But our opponent can't function without them, which is the nice thing about Eldrazi Tron. I mean, this hand's just too bad. Alright, I'm gonna keep it. I want to see if this hand's a keepable hand. I think it's not, but I'd rather learn the hard way than the easy way. It seems bad to me, but I think if it was normal Tron, I think this hand's a keep. Alright, well, I'm definitely suspending that on turn 1. I think I'd rather fetch a land out of my deck. Get going on that metric. Right, they can't turn 1 Chalice, Danny. Sorry, I was saying Chalice for 1. I'm sorry, I said turn 1 Chalice. I didn't mean that. It does matter a little bit, Mr. Tweetums. I think it might be better to play copies of Flooded Strand or Misty Rainforest instead. Alright, well, we're on the Mize 'em strategy. Might as well start Mizing them. Hit a Mine and a Reshaper. Hit another Ancestral. So we could suspend that, and we could just keep trying to Mize them. Alright, I think we'll just go to the end step, and then if they crack the map, we'll try to Mize them again. Oh, getcha. Come on, hit a tower. Hers is mine. That's not the one we want to hit, right? This is mine. Okay. So that's going to resolve. They're going to get their piece. I think I might just surgical a Thought Not Seers because my hand's pretty weak. Obviously doing their draw step. Alright, so as expected, it looks like this hand was terrible and we shouldn't have kept it. I think against normal Tron it's an easy keep, but against Eldrazi Tron this hand seems pretty poor. Alright, kill these silly Thought Not Seers. Pay some lives. Alright, at least we learned that. Probably should have followed instincts and just mulligan so we get to play more games, but we're dumb. Endbringer, Relic of Progenitus, Warping Whale, Power Plant, Tower, Ghost Quarter, Smasher. Alright, let's take a look at what the deck was they presented. Wow, they presented back with the Allah's Dust. Wow, that's crazy. I wonder why Allah's Dust is good. Right, get out of here, Graveyard. Let's see, what else nonsense do they have? They have 1 O-Stone, 3 copies of Endbringer, 1 Karn, 1 Kozilek, 1 Ulamog, 2 Relics. Yeah, whoever said the counter squalls are trash, you're right. We'll have to switch up how we're boarding here a fair amount. I mean, I'd rather learn the hard way. Danny, yeah, I don't think we're gonna win. Probably exile the graveyards too, yeah. Yeah, Dental Planner, I agree. I think Ulamog is such a messed up card. Why you need to draw 7 cards? Why not just eat all my stuff? Target themselves. Exile their Matter Reshaper so I don't exile all of their things? Okay, sure. Opponent's being a silly goose here. Alright, we're down to 10. We got an Ancestral on 2. We still don't have ourselves a Terminate. Could fetch the basic mountain, but I don't really want to do that. Endbringer is going to be a terror next turn. We really need to find a terminate here. There's a terminate for our graveyard. So, put another ancestor out there. I don't think I have any ways to survive, though, because I have this basic island on the battlefield. Have to draw a bunch of cryptics in a row, I guess. Alright, how exactly does this work? Shoots me. They can draw cards. Who cares about cards? Yeah, okay. Still does what it did the last time I played against it. Which was lots of things and you're not happy. Alright, we died a horrible death. Don't keep Thought Scour hands trying to get your opponent, boys and girls. Bad strategy. Don't do it. We learned, though. So Surgical's main purpose here is to get a Fulminator and Surgical Tron line. Yeah, Batfan. It's much better against normal Tron than it is Eldrazi Tron, because Eldrazi Tron, like I said, can just kind of cast all their random little nonsense dorkers. But still, same sort of net strategy there. So these counter skulls look pretty ridiculously bad. So we likely want the other Surgical. What is the other card we want in our deck? So many just bad cards in this matchup. I guess we want another Lightning Bolt. Collective Brutality seems pretty poor. Note, this is basically the deck we're expecting our opponent to present, which is 4 Reality Smashers, 4 Thought Nutseers, 3 Endbringers, 4 Reshapers, a set of Chalices, 3 Dismembers, 1 Karn, 1 Kozilek, 1 Olamog, 3 Warping Whales, sorry, and 1 All Is Dust. Using News Kozilek and counter Ancestral Vision? Oh, does it allow you to pitch a land? I thought it said pitch a non-land card from your hand to counter a card with the same CMC, but I guess that would be so much worse template, and they're likely just saying discard a card, counter a card with the same CMC. Alright, so let's get the Lightning Bolt, and likely there's Surgical. Feels weird. Surgicals are so bad in this matchup. Someone was suggesting earlier maybe just is it Staticaster to help ping with bolts, but since I don't like bolt, you could like bolt and is a Staticaster to kill a Thought Nutseer, but I already don't like bolt, so I don't really know why I'd want is a Staticaster if I don't like bolt. I'm more likely to want Anger than I am is a Staticaster, but I'm more of the sort of fishy deck here, playing similar to Delver in this matchup. There's an argument for Spell Snare. Yeah, it's potentially Chalice, it's Warping Whale. There's not many cards, though. We could say play one of those over 1 Surgical. I think that might be better, Danny. You might be right. I don't like that many snares, but... Discard a card with CMCX, counter target spell with CMCX. Yep, so you can discard a land and counter a 0-mana spell. That's cool. Or is that actually the case? Do lands have no CMC? Oh, Dylan, you're just doing it. The game's over. Your opponent's probably so miserable because no one ever gets card advantage in that format in that way. We do the snare. I think Sand's just a mulligan. Sand's pretty bad. And the Sand has both our lightning bolts. Leave. Not like this. Not like this. Yeah, I think Sand's also mulligan. I'm just gonna go to 5. Alright, Sand's a lot better. Surgical on top. Guess if we're on the get our opponent plane again, we could do that. Kind of more of the philosophy. I don't want to just be trying to get my opponent, but we might just need to get our opponent on 5 cards and we don't have an Ancestral. It sounds so bad and so silly. MF Moeller, I believe the next ban list update would be on It's going to be the Monday set release, so I believe that is the 15th, or sorry, the 16th, is that right? Yeah, I believe it's January 16th. I think. Oh, it's Monday after the pre-release, Danny? Okay, then it might be Monday the 9th. Alright, I think I'm going to top this. I think we're unfortunately on the line of trying to get our opponent again, and I hate that line, but here we are. Here we are. Let's see. I guess I'll play the Scalding Turn in case we see a reason to fetch away the Thought Scour. Terminator in hand's great with the Snapcaster. Current plan is to Thought Scour them, then Surgical. Alright, they're not doing anything here. We'll actually draw the Surgical. Just making sure the life's the exact same. If I fetch a Water Even on tap, I go to 17, then get a Sulphur Falls. And if I don't, it's... I still have to crack this to get an untapped land to Sulphur Falls. So I guess it was... as it's all the same. I guess it was better to play Sulphur Falls so I didn't have to crack my land if I didn't want to. But playing the land allowed me the option if I didn't want the Surgical. So, yeah, we'll just get a Watery Grave here untapped. We'll go ahead and mill our opponent a little bit and hope to get him. Hope to get him real good. Trying to think if there's any reason to wait a turn. I don't think so. Let's Thought Scour them right now. In case we draw another Thought Scour, we draw Serum Visions. We want a Serum Visions. Ancestral. No, we milled a mine? Come on. Deck. Not cool. Not cool. Alright, fortunately milled the wrong Tron piece there. Could have milled either of the other two pieces, and we milled the piece they already had in play. So I think there's no reason to Surgical them yet. 2 mana. This looks like it's going to be a Chalice for 1. It is. So I think we're going to have to fire off our Surgical. I'm just going to strip them of Thought-Knot Seers. As our hand probably can't beat a Thought-Knot Seer. They don't have any in hand. Let's see. They don't have Tron, though. No, they do have Tron. It's just Natty Ice and Tron. So they're just going to turn 3 Karnos and we're going to die. That's good. That's good. I think we're dead, ladies and gents. Don't think we're part of the living. So our Eldrazi Tron opponent's going to turn 3 Karnos and they're 1 of Karn. Whatever. Them's the beats. Chalice comes down. It's also going to go down to 3. Fulminator we're a land off of doing anything with, unfortunately. I guess we're at the spot where we have to hope our opponent plays Karn here, goes after our black source. I guess it doesn't matter because we can't even Lightning Bolt because the Chalice on 1. Yeah, we're dead here. Not great. January 16th, so we get a new ban list on my birthday. That'll be fun. Alright, they figured out playing Karn is a good strategy. Strong play. Strong play. Exiling cards from my hand, also strong line. Let's see. I guess I have to scroll back up to here because I wasn't paying any attention. They do fatty. Probably end up restarting the game in that world. Alright, later Snapcaster. Get out of here, little buddy. I think I need this Fulminator Mage to blow up a Tron piece to actually get back into this. Just hit the mountain to do it. Best Tron piece here to blow up, I think, is the Mine, as there's one in our opponent's graveyard, and we knew there was not an additional copy in their hand. We knew their last land in hand is an Eldrazi Temple. So they're going to be 1 turn off of going back to the Eldrazi village. Thanks to the host, Hoogland. Fortunately, we're getting slammed here by some Eldrazi Tron. Should ban Urza's Tower. Snap Valley, if you're going to ban Urza's Tower, you just got to ban all the Tron lands. Alright, Terminate, you're out of here too. Later. I think our best hope at this point is the opponent restarts the game for whatever reason. Heavens knows why they would ever do that, but you're allowed to make plays that are in the game of Magic, so You could do that if you wanted to. Can't cast that one. May as well make our opponent exile with their Karn. Of note, we get 3 more cards next turn. Who knows what they'll be? Or what percentage they'll be castable. Alright, or all of our lands are going to get eated. Alright, looks like we're about to take 8 here. I guess they could just play the Endbringer too if they wanted to. They can't cast the Endbringer, I'm sorry, they're on 4 lands. We're getting it for 8, down to 7. We'll draw some cards, and then we'll likely end up conceding. I don't understand why they didn't kill our Black Source, but honestly, it doesn't matter. They could basically click buttons at random as long as the cards didn't blow up their own stuff. We're not going to live. Maybe we should just target them. Oh yeah, there we go. Now we've got enough lands. We can fight through. Fight the power. Alright, we're done. Alright, done getting walloped on. Haven't been playing well. Such is life. Oh yeah, Mark, it was a real close game. Natty Ice Tron. Didn't mill over a Tron piece to get our opponent. I think if we had milled over a Tron piece on 5, I think we're actually going to win that game. Keep the other 2 for Rubbins. I don't think you can do that. Opponent not hacking our Blackland was weird. Yeah, I don't understand, Danny. Honestly, I don't know if they can ever lose the match because they have an Endbringer in their hand that we know about, unfortunately. Take our lands and not take it. They're an amateur. Yeah, Dental Planner, especially when they have a Chalice on 1. They aren't even at risk of their Karn getting lightning bolted, that they could basically play cards at random. It reminds you of Critical. What is Critical stream, Mr. Tweetums? Getting Rock'em Sock'em Bopper, and that's why you're tier 7. Alright, so we're going to drop from this league. We'll try again, fire it off tomorrow, guys. Sorry, timed out on one of the matches, kept a bad hand against Affinity, kept a hand so we could learn against Eldrazi Tron, but I'd rather learn those spots and lose a bunch of matches on Moto. That's where I'd rather lose rather than playing at a Grand Prix. I'd rather just completely get rocked in modern leagues than in physical tournaments. As in physical tournaments, I'm going to basically make all the plays that I know and try to figure out things previously to that. As I'm someone that's going to try to bring with himself just all of the proprietary knowledge he can. He's a YouTuber who plays random games and donates all the YouTube revenue to charity. Oh, that's awesome. Of course, Adam. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate it. Yeah, the Dredge match was super sweet. I mean, whatever, getting Karned on turn 3. Like, they only had one, so it's like even a bigger dagger, but whatever. Yeah, Ben, if you watch me sit here and play on Moto and try to stream simultaneously, you're just like, God, how is this kid so bad? Like, he must just cheated all these Grand Prix or something. But, I don't know. I've had a bunch of people watch me of late, and a bunch of people told me they're really impressed with my play, but that's certainly not what we're doing here on the stream. We're just getting rocked. So hopefully we can get back to some Grand Prix in February and go back to rocking other people, as we're not rocking many Motoers. The Motoers are rocking us of late. But yeah, that's going to do it for me tonight. I'm going to get some sleep. Like I said, I'm going to try to get up a webcam set up. Rudy wanted to help me out getting this, what is this called? Streamlabs set up, as apparently that's something all the cool kids are doing. I don't know exactly what it does just yet, but there was a lot of stuff going on. My ugly mug, man, I don't think my face is that bad. I mean, I do look like a 12-year-old. I might have to shave tomorrow before y'all get to see me. You can see my, like, really short haircut, but I don't know. I like my pretty green eyes. They're sweet. It's great with the ladies. Yeah, unfortunately, it was a short stream here, but we got pummeled. We played badly in a couple spots, kept some bad hands. Might end up trying the list that Stephen Mann had that he won the PTQ with the 2 Mana Leaks. I really hate Mana Leak as a card, but maybe it's great right now, and I'm not sure. Otherwise, I still think the list is fine. Affinity player played really well. Our Dredge pilot played really, really well. Eldrazi Tron players beat the crap out of us. Stuff that happens. Streaming is really hard. Your handicap's there by playing a horrible modern deck. Well, Ben, this is what I pride myself on, is playing horrible modern decks. I also need to talk to you about the draft camp weekend, whether or not you want to hang out and play the quarterly from the same room. I know you're probably going to play Bant, and I'm just going to play this. And if you want to hang out as we're doing that, we can kick it. I need to figure out a place to stay also, so I'll have to talk to people about that, as I'd rather not get a hotel. I'd rather hang out with somebody as I'm doing that, but we'll talk to you about that offline. What's up, Dokumoy? If you're getting to play poorly, you should make sure at least you get rewarded for it. That's my strategy. I did get rewarded for it. I top decked the damnation after keeping a bad hand, and it just didn't matter. My opponent top decked not the defense grid, the Aether grid or whatever it's called, and just shot us. So the little crown is Twitch Prime. Basically, Twitch and Amazon partnered up, where Amazon, if you have an Amazon Prime account now, you get a free subscription, and the crown means that you're an Amazon user and you've subbed to some channel, I believe. I'm not exactly certain on that part of it, but that's the base of it, Crow. Mark, it's so utterly complicated that I think I've had to look it up 7 times in the last 3 days because I'm so used to the previous system, and this system just made no sense to me. Like, I paid 40 tickets to enter that open, where it opened to sealed pool, and they just immediately went back to sleep and didn't play around. And I learned at the end of it, and then none of that was worth points. There was just literally no reason for me to wake up that morning. Like, I only care about the points because 7 players are going to qualify off points, and I think I can play most of the monthlies. True Name. I think that the card is powerful. I don't think it goes into a version playing Cryptic Command, as it incentivizes you to tap your mana on your turn. So I think if you're looking to play, it's called Yahenni's Expertise. It's a -3/-3, and then allows you to cast a free 3-mana spell. I think if you're looking to cast that spell, I think you're into putting larger creatures in your deck. Kalitas is the first one that comes to mind, as most people already want to play that. It also survives it. It would give you a bunch of zombies. Sweet combo. Goblin Dark Dwellers is another card high up there on the list. Is you're going to want to curve Yahenni's Expertise, try to kill off all the creatures, free cast and Ancestral Visions. Next turn, Slam Dwellers, draw 3 more cards. I think you play a more like tap out style of Grixis Control. I think that is what you're looking at, where I'm honestly worried that if that's a cycle of cards, maybe we need to be looking at casting spells in colors where we can't even put the spell on the stack normally. Like, maybe there's something weird going on where that's just going to be a card all the Restore Balance decks play, and that's going to bring back Living End. And maybe you don't have white mana in your deck, and you just put Restore Balance in your deck. Or maybe you don't have black mana in your deck for Living End. Well, you can't do it without black mana because it's a double black spell. But I think there are merits to the card. I don't think it fits into this version of Grixis, but I'm obviously going to try that out before Vancouver, which is, I believe, the 2nd or 3rd weekend of February. How do you explain needing to relook up something 7 times? Well, I usually look for one piece of information, and I find the piece of information that I need, and then I stop. I don't just, like, try to understand the whole system, because at the time, the whole system didn't matter to me. I believe I've read the whole system the first time Lee Sharp's article went up, and I was like, okay, I think I understand what's going on, but then I needed to go back and look at pieces, which was, okay, when's the next one? Okay, when's the next one? When's the next one? Okay, I now got a 6 and 2. What does that mean? Okay, what do these points mean? How many people qualify off points? Okay, and then I do those one at a time rather than just, okay, let's take notes on what does the system actually mean. So that's what I mean when I think I've looked it up 7 or 8 times. Danny, I agree. Are you still down there in San Diego? Or are you back up in LA? Also, are you immediately trying to get a job? What are you looking to do over there, Danny? Basically, we're just hanging out right now, guys and gals. We, for some reason, can't win many modern matches. We can win draft matches today. Have not been playing super great, but gonna work on improving that. Rather lose a ton now, trying different things out too, different lines out. And you saw that in the Eldrazi Tron game, where we're like, hey, maybe we can try to get our opponent. And that's just not a real strategy. I think that we need to approach that matchup similar to how we approach the Bant Eldrazi matchup. But yeah, so hopefully if anybody wants to hit me up, heading back down to ST on Tuesday, actually in the process of looking for a job, applied a few places, including WotC. Danny, I hope you get into WotC. You'd be freaking great there. The team that WotC has is really great, and I mean, I don't think they should ever say no to other great individuals. Place is not place. I assumed as much, don't worry, man. If you guys want to follow me, it's when I will be streaming next. I am Corey_Burkhart. This is my Twitter. And I am Corey.Burkhart15. That's my Facebook. Feel free to follow me, shoot me messages on either of those. I'm always willing to answer questions whenever I'm streaming. You can basically ask me almost any question as long as it's not like completely unacceptable. You'd have to do something really, really dumb. I think that anybody that's been hanging out in our chat is reasonable enough that they're not gonna ask questions that are not acceptable. But yeah, feel free to ask me any question. I'm always willing to help people out. I would love to give people more insight on Grixis, give people more insight on how I approach Magic, Modern, whatever you name it. Always down to help folks out. Thanks for hanging out. If you want to follow the channel, please do. Like I said, I'll be tweeting out on Twitter or on Facebook about 30 minutes before I go live. I always want to give people a little bit of a heads up. I'm not the most effective, but I will be streaming at some point tomorrow. I don't think I have anything I need to really get done before work on Tuesday. I think I got all that done. I need to stop at the store, like I said, pick up some webcam action. Got to get Streamlabs set up, and we'll get that going. Isn't completely unacceptable subjective, though. Dokamoy it is. I guess I would just urge people to use their best judgment. I won't immediately just ban people for asking silly questions. I might say, hey, that's not a topic that's really okay for us to discuss here. If you really want to discuss that, if I'm comfortable with it, I'll discuss it offline. I think I'm comfortable discussing most topics. As I would rather become a more logic-based person than an emotion-based person. I'm currently a very emotional individual. Get Nick Escobar on the stream? I'd be down. Nick's awesome. True name, I don't know who you are, but I'm glad you know some of my good buddies. I've traveled around to a number of Grand Prix with Nick. He's awesome people. The mods will smite you. What's up, Michelle? Yeah, Mark, we should know who True Name is. I mean, they know Nick Escobar. The mods will smite you. I don't know. It sounds like Thor just like banishing you from society. I don't know how the gods in that work. That's about what I know. Oh, I know Mike. What's up, dude? Anywho, friends. Token boy. I mean, sure, I don't want to be a robot. I don't want to be an emotionless robot. But I would like to address more conversations from a logic-based perspective, giving reason to things rather than just being like, I feel this way, or what you're saying is dumb, or what they're saying I really like and I already agree with, rather than saying why. Like, the why is what matters, and I think a lot of that is what I try to bring to the stream, and why I'm making the plays I'm doing, rather than just, here's the play I'm going to make, because it feels right. Yeah, there are certainly going to be times where it's like, I don't know how to explain it, but hopefully I'll try to reason through, like, here are all the things running around in my head. I thought Thor was the dude with the big hammer that shot lightning bolts out, Ben. I'm pretty sure he could banish people from society. Just lightning strikes you. Isn't literal lightning strike the art of that, like the lightning bolt that Thor sends down? It isn't, I think Heliod's supposed to be Thor. I'm not certain of that. It might be Perforos was meant to be Thor, but I thought one of those was supposed to be... I don't even know if Thor's a Greek god. I don't know anything. Thanks, sorry. Alright, but before I get carried away and get into a concept analysis of what all the gods are in different mythologies and the made-up characters in Marvel... That's Zeus? Jesus, I'm really stupid. Deuce, thank you for enlightening me. At least I should know who Zeus is. That's really bad. Wow, that's really bad. Okay. On that note, I've shown my incompetence in many categories, and I'll call the stream with that. Thanks for hanging out, everyone. I'll see you all tomorrow. Have a good night.